I see that folks are already messing with some of the stuff I'll be getting into a little later when it comes to the new Gnome code and whatnot. And I'll explain what that is here in a moment for new folks who are here. Um, but I see that they're already prompting with kinky and stuff. It's so fun to have this sort of collaborative space with you guys. Um, and I gotta properly put a little bouncing PNG tuber for kinky at some point on the Discord here. It's a little
That
harder
would
to
be
do than
fun.
with Twitch, you know.
That would be fun. I have to get my my VTuber out and make her work again.
Right. Yeah, just have it be just something I can put in the corner of the screen and you can just turn it on and you'll be there, you know. Um,
Yeah.
we did that with Rhapsody before, and it's okay on latency. Like she's all the way in Germany, and we were doing it fine when it comes to doing the whole um, uh, uh, VTuber sharing screen thing. I forgot what it's Ninja, I think OBS Ninja. Um, but yeah, let's see here. Let's see who do we got in the chat already. We got Boken, we got Real Smart, and I troll for you. Hey guys, it's always great to see y'all. Thank you so much for joining. Lizzie's here. Awesome. That means we're gonna be seeing some real fun stuff from you guys today. I love the regulars that come by here because it really makes all the difference for uh, keeping me engaged as well as everyone else too. So I really do appreciate you guys coming back here on Fridays. Felix, it's good to see you, Felix. Um, there's been some activity on my Discord because I've been gone for a week, and the it's always fun to kind of catch up with what you guys are doing too. Um, before I left though, we'll get the stream started off here with some Phantasma related stuff because we're working on a fantasy project on my Discord, and the fantasy project involves kind of like basically we're going to be venturing into cartooning in a way that is really hard to do normally with Midjourney because Midjourney gives you a massive variety of results. It can be, when you just ask for a cartoon, like, what cartoon are you talking about? Are we talking like Tex Avery? Are we talking anime? Are we talking like obscure Russian, Polish, Soviet era film? Like, what kind of cartoon do you want to make, right? And the the kind of cartoon I like is at least the ones that I make with my comics and everything else is a blend between my roots, which is in Franco-Belgian comics and cartoons like Tintin and all that sort of stuff. But it's also a lot of anime. It's a lot of like manga inspired stuff. So I try to balance the two whenever I'm making comics, and the uh the fantasy project is kind of pushing that to a whole new extreme because we're trying to essentially set rules for Midjourney that gives us results that are like um uh dynamic in a way that is controllable. Like we're able to we're we're able to make some really eh, genuine expressions with these characters now because of this new code that I'm going to share with you guys. And if you were part of my Discord, you would have had access to this for about a week now. And I'll just get everything started here just so everyone is on the same page here on how things work. First off, my name is Victor. I am a cartoonist and former visual effects artist for Adult Swim. I've worked on like Robot Chicken, Moral Oral, and all sorts of other shows and stuff. And the I just fell in love with everything AI related when it came to cartooning and illustration and everything. But I also like got really frustrated. I wanted Midjourney to do very specific things for me, and it just wasn't doing it. So that's kind of how I started this whole process of figuring out how to make Midjourney work for us instead of just kind of be an RNG machine, right? when you just put words in a in the bot, right? You you're essentially going to get the midpoint of all those concepts, all those words that you used. You're going to get the uh, like a middle ground between all those ideas. And what oftentimes results is a large diversity, but it can also be like kind of a form of like sterile mediocrity because everything is just kind of there's no strong lean in one direction. There's all sorts of ways that you can force Midjourney to essentially only work within a certain style or only work with a certain character, and we'll get into all that. But at least for me, when it comes to exploring my own characters, that's really where this whole process started. Was me trying to recreate my characters inside of Midjourney, and have them be something that can just be a line of code, right? We've had a lot of development over the last year, and seeing all sorts of new tools for Midjourney has been super exciting to see you guys playing with them. So, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna pull out that first tool, which is called character referencing, and the code that I'm going to share with you guys is something that we've been developing called the Gnome code with my friend Fran. It was originally based off of her OC and has kind of evolved in its own direction at this point. With other artists' help, we were able to basically create a completely unique character that is a combination of generated imagery and traditional, or sorry, traditional. I say traditional, digital art. And so what I have here is a smattering of links and the cref parameter put in the front of it. So all these links here are essentially going to describe the character for Midjourney, and it essentially will combine all these links into a single image, and that becomes the reference. And because we are merging all these pretty randomly, that means all the expressions that are shared across all these links just kind of pop up when we might need them. And if we ask for a specific expression, it'll lean towards those results just because of like the similarities within uh essentially like a latent space. Like we're if we want a sad character, it'll very often pull sad faces that are going to be similar to our references here. And this is a very much something that I hope to see keep on improving as well. So let's just get this started off right by asking Gnome to do something for us. So let's have her. They've been stealing gems from wizards on my Discord. So let's do thief stealing gems. Okay, and we'll just start with that. Um, I will set an aspect ratio of 3:2 just to give us a little bit of a wider image. By default, Midjourney will always produce square images, but if you add an aspect ratio, it actually encourages the result diversity to lean towards the result that you're intending. So if you want a comic book, you probably want to aim for something like 4:5 or 2:3 or something that's more like a page of paper. But if we are doing like a film or a scene, right, like we're more likely going to be doing a um, something a little more cinematic, and so we want a little bit of a wider shot for that. And you can see that by default, gnome the new gnome is awesome. Like I really do like the kind of the dynamics of gnome at this point, gnome 3.1. And I'll go ahead and share the sheet with that inside of text chat so you guys can see that as well. Just a second here. Um, she will have a lot of diversity when it comes to the expressions. I mean, in my initial version of gnome 3 was a little bit too simple. Some people got pretty frustrated with the flat sort of output that we got out of it. So the newest version is definitely something I think people are going to really enjoy, which is this one here. You can see that with this style that we've applied here, the essentially what we're looking at is a generated various generated poses that have been redrawn by a traditional again I'm saying traditional, by a digital artist, and to fix any sort of inconsistencies in the particularly the line art and the shading. So I actually went through and did the shading myself, but a friend of mine did the paint overs for this. So it's really really cool to see the end results of this because all this sort of strict rule following on my part and on her part meant that the results that we get are have very consistent shading, have very consistent sort of theming to this character here. So with that said, the results are oftentimes by default a little bit strict. So we want to go in and we want to apply a little bit of wiggle room on this character reference here. Right now, by default, it's set to 100, but if we add hyphen hyphen CW and then any number between 0 to 100, we're essentially saying how much influence the character reference has. And this even applies to the style of the art as well. So if you go really low, right, like 0, she will most likely not be wearing the same outfit. She might not even have braids, but the most likely it'll better reflect the thief stealing gems in the prompt because there's just less restrictions related to the final image here. So we didn't get any gems. We didn't. We only got her kind of reaching as if maybe she was about to, you know, Indiana Jones this like a bag of gems or something. But at least for at least for the result, when you drop the character reference or the character weight, sorry, down, you can see suddenly the idea of gems is now represented inside of this result. And the you might be thinking, okay, yeah, that's cool, but now like that's a different character. And yes, but the cool thing is that we can bring the character back. So if I click on one of these results, okay, and then we do vary region on here, what's going to happen is essentially we are able to now select all the areas that are wrong, like everything that doesn't match the character art. So she's wearing like what is it, a bit of an apron here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the lasso tool and we are just going to highlight everything that is like this like white outfit that's here going up into here. She doesn't wear any braces or sorry like bracelets or anything like that, so we're going to cover that up as well. And then her neckline also doesn't have any white, so we'll go ahead and grab that. And you know, her hat is a point and whatnot, but we'll go ahead with this and just see what we get. But the very important thing at this point is if I just submit this right now, it's just going to re-roll those results basically. But if I set this to like 90 instead of 0, what's going to happen is it will be very strict on following the GNOME code. So you essentially are able to selectively pick what parts of the image are you know, are right or wrong, and then do a wax on wax off process to fix it. So right now, this is actually a variation subtle from Legal Beagle, and you can see that variation subtle is super super handy if you got the composition in mind. So you see like all the hands are basically in the same place, but the context of the image changes. That's what variation subtle is really good at doing. But as soon as we do the character weight at at 90, highlighting only the stuff that is not accurate to the character design, suddenly you got Gnome looking down at some gems, ready to yank them. So this is so cool. This is like one of the most exciting things about Midjourney to me is just being able to produce these really usable imagery. The one thing that at least in my experience, there is a lot of color balancing, color grading, and things that you need to do in order to get two AI generated images to look similar, or at least seem like they belong with each other. Even just a couple weeks ago, it was a lot more of a hassle to get things to look the same. But what we're using here is something called a style reference. Okay. And the style reference is set for Phantasma, which is the fantasy city that we are telling our story in. And this is essentially a blueprint for how the art should come out. But you'll notice that it looks very, very different than the GNOME code. And this is done on purpose. It's one thing when you run this as your style reference, which we'll do a little later, and I'll explain why I'm kind of prepping you guys up in a certain way for this. But the style reference is important here because it sets like the time of day, it sets the environment, it sets so many like color, like just the tone of it. It all is all represented here inside of this style reference. But the thing about the gnome code is that it follows different rules. It has thick, like what is called clean line art or Linclair. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but the artwork is very different than the style reference. So we notice here there's some pretty bold lines, like bold line art, only one shading, like, and it's a hard shading. It's a hard line for the shading, um, and uh, and the only kind of gradients are used like here in her blush face and stuff. There's very little gradients that are used inside the gnome code, while there's tons of gradients inside of the style reference for Phantasma. And the reason why these are different is for the same reason that like when you're watching a cartoon, like let's like an old cartoon. Let me pull up something here. Let's see, colorized background. I'm gonna just kind of play on my hip, shoot from the hip on this one. I have to find the right reference on this one. But if you've watched a couple older cartoons that were animated on cells, you'll recognize that sometimes the object that the characters are about to interact with are a slightly different color. They are maybe a little brighter, or they are just the art looks a little different for the thing that they're about to interact with. And this is like called it's called something related to Scooby Doo because people are most remember it from Scooby Doo. Let me see if I can quickly find an example. Um, and let's see. Yes. Okay. Well, that's more modern. I don't. I may not be able to find a reference quick enough here, but essentially speaking, what we would end up seeing is that whatever the characters are about to interact with would be a slightly different look than the rest of the show, and this is a product of the technology at the time. And because they're adding cells, they're literally adding transparent sheets on top of each other, and whenever a character was going to interact with something, they had to have a different sheet for the prop that they were going to be drawing and manipulating from the background. So that's why they pop. But what that ended up doing is establishing like a sort of like almost like mental training for people. Like they were like expecting that to be normal for cartoons, like in cartoon worlds, for things to be a little more obvious um, when they're about to be interacted with. And if you notice here, when we use gnome as a character reference, that background is largely lost. Like we end up with this very murky, kind of like dark space, largely with just simple shapes. Okay. And that's actually because of the character referencing, not because of the style referencing. So if I run this as a, without the gnome code, right, you'll see what I'm talking about here. So if I just say, okay, I'll grab this, and oh wow, wow, you guys are already going ham with this. This is awesome. Whoa. Okay. All right. All right. I gotta not distract myself. I will be digging through everything you guys are doing here in a moment. So feel free to keep prompting and making stuff with us. And I'll show you guys what channel we're doing that in just a moment. I just want to get through my thought here. So if we only use this as a style reference and we just describe the kingdom for a moment, so let's just say that it's a like a fantasy castle, right? What we're going to see is something very different than the results that come out natively. Because sometimes you get like really cool backgrounds. Like, look at this. Like, this is super, super neat. We have a lot of depth here. We can really, really feel like she's in this library, and that's awesome. But if you look closely, especially at the pillars in the background, things start to get lost because it's actually replicating some of the more faster art styles that are represented inside of the character reference here. And I say faster like it's just easier to draw than if we use a bunch of complex gradients and stuff. But if I now pull up the style reference, look at this. See the detail? See the complexity that it's able to create off of just the style reference. The style reference also sets the time of day. It's kind of like I'm gonna make a joke in whenever I do release the Phantasma stuff, that it's kind of like locked in time a bit. So like everything is kind of at 3:33 p.m. right for this style reference specifically, and we have other style references for different times of day. But you'll notice here, like it's always like the light is always casted in the same direction, and that's because of the work that I put into the style reference here. So you can see the light is casting harsh shadows, but that harsh shadow is not being we're not losing the imagery inside of those shadows. We are instead increasing the contrast of the imagery, which is particularly the darker colors here. Essentially, as the images get darker, they actually increase in contrast, which creates a sort of really, really poppy effect that I know that that's like the most asinine way that I can describe that, but it really makes the images look super cool. So the results that you guys might be getting, like this, for example, can feel a little simple, right? Like in terms of like the line art, sometimes like you feel like there might be some details lost that might be too flat at times. And we can get around that by dropping the character weight and doing other things. But this is what I mean by having to like the iterative aspect of what we're working on. We have the Gnome 3.0 was way too flat. There would have been no shading on her face if we would have run the older code. So the newer code adds a little bit of dynamic, volume to things, which is great. But now, the next thing that I want to show you guys is essentially how we can fix those rough backgrounds, and then using the GNOME code as a style reference to create original fantasy characters. Particularly, if you already have an original character, we will be making fantasy versions of them today. So I would love to see what you guys are making. I want to jump over to the chat really quick, see if oh, hi Rhapsody, it's good to see you, wavies. And yes, we'll be getting into what Legal Beagle built for us here a little later today to create the original fantasy characters. So I love everything you guys are doing here. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Like she carries a magic wand made of a shiny gem, and it's especially when you start to get quite descriptive with it, you can really surpass those like minimal limitations. But look at this expression just off of this first one here. And oh my god, like some of these expressions you guys are making are like super neat right off the bat, and we haven't even gotten into the cartooning aspect of this stuff yet. Is she eating a gerbil? It kind of looks like she's eating a gerbil. That oh, I like her riding the dragon. That's pretty awesome.
Eating
That's cool, guys.
a gerbil.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. It looks like she's eating a gerbil.
She definitely looks like she's eating a gerbil. And she looks like she's like so satisfied with it, too.
Right.
Like, gerbil.
Yeah, it's like well, I mean, it is a fantasy world, right? They're gonna be a little more like the idea of being a vegan in a fantasy world doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah.
But it is certainly true that especially when you drop the character weight to near zero, you're going to see tons of diversity. You're going to see the line weight limitations start to remove themselves, and you get these like it honestly won't match the Phantasma look very much when you go too low too often. But like yeah, you guys, I mean, you guys turned her into Sub-Zero here. Fungi Mancer turned her into Sub-Zero. Let me pull this one up really quick. Oh my god, there's so many of these guys. Like we're gonna have so much fun digging through this stuff. But look, there she is. She's Sub-Zero now. Cool. All right. So at this point, I'm gonna be digging through everything you guys are making here. I mean, there's already some really cool stuff. I'm really excited to no.
Oh boy.
Of course. Ancient is.
It's gonna be canon now.
It's getting. Oh god. I bet Fran's gonna love that. But let's go ahead and move on to oh my god, look at these little woodcut gnomes. Oh, it's so good. So good. I'm just gushing over what you guys are already doing. But if you notice here, right, this is a really, really great example actually of the stuff that people got frustrated with when it comes to the GNOME code, which is that when we start to talk about cartooning, particularly um, minimalism, the more minimal you go, the more you're able to allow people to project themselves into the characters. They're able to identify with characters that are more simple because you know, they essentially see a blob and they go, I identify with that blob. But if that blob actually is a highly detailed drawing of a person with a certain ethnicity, a certain hair color, or even just the way that they look, like expression wise, can be off-putting to people. Like they just don't relate to it, and that's why you see so many like cartoon characters nowadays be just these like simple stick figures or simple white, ghostly blob characters, because they pan well. The general audiences will identify themselves more easily. The negative with that is that AI has no understanding really of what these expressions are. It is getting better. Like we've seen dramatic improvements in this over the last couple months, but this is about the representation of reality. It's not about trying to recreate it. A lot of the AI imagery that we are making together is a recreation of something. It is trying to make a basically a fake version of it. And we're not trying to represent reality, when cartooning is literally the opposite. It's a representation. It doesn't take things literally. So artists will always have that their own superpower, which is to be able to defy logic and make something that is ridiculous or absurd. And sure, Midjourney can make plenty of ridiculous or absurd images, but it doesn't have the intent of the creator unless you start to draw in your references and stuff. And we'll get into that probably towards the end of the stream here. But this sort of minimalism also can be very frustrating, because it means that your results can oftentimes, you have to basically re-roll a ton just to be able to get a character that expresses the way you want them to. So as easy as this is for me to edit and manipulate, it is also something that I think a lot of people would go, that doesn't look good. Like that just doesn't look clean, right? The line art's not clean. It's kind of messy and stuff. But then when you look at, especially sketchy sort of quick comics that are online, that's what they look like. They look like something that's rough. It has edge. It has some, some rough edges. And we are so conditioned as AI users to want a certain aesthetic, to want a certain level of quality, or a certain level of what I call overproduction, where there's a lot of real, like, look at all the realism that's behind Gnome here. That's frankly unnecessary for the intent of creating the figure here. But that's overproduction. That's where it just keeps trying to make the image more and more complex or more interesting. And if you set your style really high, you're basically guaranteeing a form of overproduction inside of your imagery. If you drop that style too low, you'll get some hyper minimalism, but most people don't like the results of that. So the main thing that we're going to do now is we are going to get into the Legal Beagle style reference code that he's kind of put together here. This is essentially, I did this when I was traveling, and I was like, okay, let's just do this as a style reference for Gnome so that you guys can start to mess around with creating your own characters in the style of Gnome. The artist who did the work on her is very much inspired by Studio Trigger and very big anime studios that really make some extremely high quality stuff. And I was trying to get a blend or a merger of these essentially these styles. So let's try to create our own characters using the GNOME code. So if you have a D&D character, or some sort of fantasy character that you want to see, or that you already have, we can actually use that to create a version of it that matches Gnome's art style here.
I put in all of my characters from Virtue and the Seven Deadly Sins.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw some of those. That's awesome. I saw Gluttony. I always recognize Gluttony first. He does take up a good amount of the frames, so it's it makes sense.
It's hard not to see him.
It's hard not to see him, right? It's like, hide and seek with Gluttony would be a very short game.
But all the others are there too now. You got Cynthia, that's the devil, it's her mom, and God, that's her dad, and then you've got all of the other sins.
That's awesome.
There's like 9 characters.
That's great. I love seeing the diverse casts that people have. So like essentially what we're gonna do here is you guys are welcome to post your OCs inside of VC text. And I'll work with them there just because it kind of pops up a little more easily for me. Like essentially what you do is you come to the server here, hit VC text, and you can post your images there, or you can prompt with us inside of VC create and just follow along with what I'm doing. So essentially what we're going to do is I have a slightly tweaked version of the GNOME code here, and Legal Beagle, if you got an updated okay, post links. Okay, yes, sorry. I'll update that. Let me backtrack a little bit. So if you can't post images inside of VC text, but you can post the links for those images here. If you want to post images, go to VC create and we'll start working with them there. But if I now paste a slightly tweaked version of the code that instead of using cref, it uses sref. Okay, so you can see I've swapped the C for an S here. And I've removed the style reference for Phantasma entirely from this. Okay, I'll just grab your code here. I did add the no green, but I'll go ahead and just copy this one from Legal Beagle real quick. Oop. Okay. And then we're just going to describe a class, right? So let's do like a dark elf paladin. Okay. The more descriptive you are here, I guess the more interesting the results will be and the more accurate they are to your D&D character. But I'm just going to submit this. And fixed. Okay, no green. Okay, yeah, you did put it back in there. Okay, all good. The results may all have green tunics. I've noticed that this is something that at least when I saw Legal Beagle doing this, the no green does help. So you can see how much green dominates the imagery here. But look at the line art. The line art is basically consistent to Gnome 3.1. So there is so much green, right? And that's just because every image includes green on the inside of the GNOME code. So if we do -- no green, that adds a negative prompt, which will avoid essentially anything that's nearby that word in latent space. So by adding no green, we will still get some green, sure, but we will not see it be a theme or thematic add-on to the prompt here. So look at that. We got a lot of diversity. We got a lot of like at least a good amount of diversity in the outfit, but we got the line art to keep mostly consistent. The bottom left one's a bit uninspiring to me, just because it has really thick line art for around the armor, and then suddenly it's all like thin manga art everywhere else. So I try to avoid results like the bottom left one here. But essentially from here, we can use any character that we've already built as well. So let's do Victor, which is my OC here. I'll do it as a character reference. I have Victor saved inside of Midjourney, and I'll explain how to do that in a moment. But cref Victor, and then I'm going to add a CW of 0. So essentially, it'll be a very loose inspiration to Victor, but I need this to be in front of the prompt. So let's see here. We'll do. Let's see. I'm gonna go with a rogue. Let's go with a. Let's just go with a rogue. Just a very simple class for now. It's gonna most likely be human or elf-like, and we'll see what we get. So we have Wrath, muscular, built with a short fuse. His skin is reddish tint, constantly looks like he's on the brink of an explosion. Fiery eyes, clenched fist, and perpetually throbs on his forehead. Infuriating face of Wrath is a young man, grimacing wild hair, bulging black eyes, stunningly beautiful, ready to attack pose, wearing a black hooded sweater. Ooh, that was a mouthful.
It looks amazing. I love it.
Look at it. It looks so good. It looks like something from what is that the
Street
box?
Fighter.
Yeah, Street Fighter. But there's also like it's like Boken or Bakken or Buken or Boko. I forgot what it is. There's a
Boken?
show. We got someone here named Boken, but there's a fighting show on Netflix, an anime that is it's named something like that, but it looks a lot like this.
Casey, what did you say what it was?
Uh,
Oh, I thought he said something.
I might have thought of one, but then he said something different, so I might have been wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Let me just call you out.
I don't know what a lot of the Shogun animes I don't really get into. Baki, yes, Baki. Thank you. It's called Baki. Let's take a look at this though. All right, so Really Smart did a dark fantasy witch. Oh, look at that. And you can see that because of the there's the no green prompt sorry, it doesn't have a negative prompt for no green. There's green eyes, green outfit. Yes. So negative prompts are pretty essential to avoid the biases from the GNOME code, right? But look at these little goblins. It looks so good. And it all is consistent. The line art is all consistent. So if I take, two of these goblins next to each other, they're most likely going to match. It'll take much less work for me to combine these images together. And that's the point, is that, yes, we might get some overly simple line art sometimes, but that also means it's very easy for me to edit and very easy for me to put together into a comic. Let's take a look at the one with Victor here. Okay, yes, okay, cool. So I just said rogue. I set my character reference to Victor, which is various images of Victor, and I've set the character weight to 0. And then the style reference is the GNOME code. And look at this. Okay, so I like the pirate babe. I like pirate babe Victor. That's fun. But what it essentially does at this point is it as long as the character weight is set pretty low, it'll go nuts with trying to, make a rogue character that looks like your OC or whatever. So whether you're using character referencing or not, it essentially just keep describing if you're not, but if you do have existing art for your characters, it is too fun to just convert them to the GNOME code here. So anthropomorphic gerbil eating a gnome. Nice. And essentially what we can do when it comes to, you guys experimenting with this stuff. So redheaded barbarian studying hard for college classes. So this was done incorrectly just because it was done as a C-ref instead of an S-ref. You may have corrected this later, Snoopy. But if you didn't, the way that you fix that is really easy. So you could see the styles are drastically changing result to result to result, right? Oftentimes giving us a bit too much of a messy look because we only have the C-ref here. We have no style reference at all. So let's swap this to be, because we're describing a barbarian. So I'll fix the spelling here real quick. And then hit S-ref instead of C-ref. And then I'll add no green. And because there is no C-ref, we have to get rid of the character weight. And then submit this. Okay? Let's see. I troll for you did the beast dancer. Oh, nice. I did my wife's D&D character, which is like a tengu. It's like a crow with rainbow feathers, coming out of her head and stuff. That was a very fun result. I definitely am a fan of anthropomorphizing with the new gnome code here. This one's from Lizzie, a short little gnome. Look at this. And you can see the line art is preserved. It doesn't have
cute.
Yeah, and the shading is so minimal that I could easily reshade this to be at any time of day. So just to kind of show this really quick while we wait for more characters to roll in here from you guys. If I quickly open Photoshop here just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. The reason why this style is so important for us when it comes to utility as artists is that we want something that can be easily transformed, that can be made into an asset or a part of a comic quite easily. So if I just copy this image, okay, copy. We're not going to upscale it. I'm just going to show you guys. This is a quick demo, and then I'm going to pop myself over to the tablet here, and I will go ahead and just open this up in Photoshop really quick. Okay, you can see that with Lizzie's image here, there is actually no shading that is represented outside of very subtle gradients. Like, so we can see here, if I were to color pick the difference between this kind of brownish color to this grayish color here, there is a shift in the hues, right? That's normal. That's something that you see in all generated imagery, actually. But there is no shading. And what we can do to fix this, so say like I need to make this like the morning, right? Now that we have everything clean, align, or Linclair, then the only thing I need to do is change it to contiguous, turn off contiguous, which means that it will select everything of that same color in the canvas. I will select the skin here, and I'm just going to make sure I have that well selected. Okay. And I'm going to actually do a modify and then expand that selection just a little bit by 2 pixels. That will just take into account any subtle, essentially like little missed parts that I might have overlooked. And now I'll add a layer. Okay. And then I'm going to create a shadow color for this. So first I will color pick the skin, and then I will grab a little bit. The way I do shading, by the way, is I do it in a bit of a hacky way. I don't really set palettes ahead of time. I just kind of drop to a bottom right corner, and then I use shift a little bit to make it a bit interesting. So like something a little more shifted towards yellow would be better because of the environment here. And now I am going to very, very loosely draw a like a bit of a morning sun on this. So we'll just come into here, start colorizing a little bit. Let's see, if we're doing light coming this way, then we want to kind of add some shadow here, and we'll add some shadow here, a little bit over here between the fingers, that, down here. A good chunk of shading underneath the arm here. And then most of the neck needs to be shaded as well. And you can see I'm doing this very, very roughly. Like I really am not being too accurate about this because I don't need to be. And you'll see why here in a moment. So I have the skin now loosely shaded, but with a very blotchy just color. I will use a blending mode now to basically bypass the line art and start to see what this looks like with different sort of like shading. So look at this. All right. So this is a bit of an opposite of what we were going for, right? Where the shading is from down, or sorry, where the light source is coming from down below. So if I wanted to say, put like a very, shiny gem or something here in the corner, then now the lighting makes sense for that. But if I'm doing shadow from the side here, so I'm going to go for a darker color. Let's go for something like this. And then I'll drop just a little bit of the opacity. And now look at that. Doesn't that look so much better, like right off the bat, in terms of telling us where the light is coming from, where the environment is, all that sort of stuff? So I can now, even if I wanted to experiment with this, I could start to apply this to the outfit too. Like not even worry about the making the selection, because I've already established that this blending mode works for the skin. So maybe it works for the outfit too. And I just start coming in and I start recoloring based on the scene that I'm making. Okay. So when it comes to, especially when it comes to shading, I oftentimes will draw very blotchy, very thick things, and then I'll come in with a much smaller eraser and just kind of clean up some of the rough, especially the rounding that happens. So you can see as I draw with this digital pen, there's no fine line. There's a finite point for it. So if you look here and we zoom in all the way, see how rounded this edge is here, but this one starts to taper. If I wanted it to taper in both directions, then I just come in with the eraser and start to taper it like that. Okay. And now we have a much cleaner, finer line. But there you go. That's my approach to shading and why I am focused on Linclair or clean line, because it lets me dynamically control the characters in a traditional way, like in a digital art way, to where I am able to use what you guys make much more easily than if it's randomized shading on every result. So there you go. I hope that it helps explain at least some of the logic that I have for this here. So let's pop back over to the stage and see what we got going on here. Her running and used Gnome as a CRF and a style reference, and then dropped it to 0 character weight. That's awesome. So it looks like she's, going to school. It's like the end of Evangelion, or like the end of the first Evangelion series, where they're actually just back at high school. Like that's that. This is the fantasy story wasn't real the entire time. It was just a dream from a schoolgirl. So yeah. And you could see here that with Lizzie, as I was working on this, so let's see what she did here. Use this as a character reference. Okay, cool. So they have their own character lined up, and it has the relatively simple shading, but it adds a little bit extra. Like there's a little bit of like muck that's on the outfit and whatnot. So this follows the Gnome code pretty closely, but it is something that if you notice the differences, like in the results, that we essentially get a cleaner version of it, which is really, really helpful for when we're making comics. Look at this fungi mancer, anthropomorphic creature, part vulture, part dragon, wearing a colorful robe and a glowing white crown on its head. The creature is holding a giant magical painting brush in the tip of a brush, and the tip of the brush is glowing with crimson. That's actually pretty good. I mean, like, I love how it made the brush feathers on the top right one. That's pretty clever. That's pretty cool.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want one of them. I want a vulture dragon, like, right now, please.
Yeah. Aang. You did a Soulbender, and you did is this no character? It's just all Aang. That's funny. Wow.
Sarah.
All right, so this one's from Mojam, and they're using the Gnome code as a style reference here. And you could see that when you ask for a complete scene with the Gnome code, there is a reason why we have 2 style references, and this is a great example right here. We are getting some really cool shots, some really cool imagery, cool compositions, but that has nothing to do with the style reference. But because the style has these thick lines, eventually the complexity, the overproduction becomes murky. It becomes this sort of like lost in the weeds of imagery. And that's what that does, is it makes the eye trail away from the character. It makes it makes us ask, why are the lines so thick in the backgrounds, or why is that there? What is any of that important to sorry, I was waving my hand in front of my webcam and suddenly Victor's dancing around the screen. I gesture a lot that you guys can never see those gestures, by the way. Like, I'm using my hands and communicating with my hands. You guys never see that. But the thing is that because of the effect of having the line art from Gnome code, it completely murks up the backgrounds, in my opinion. So that's why we have 2 styles. We have a style reference for Phantasma the City, and then we have a character reference for Gnome. So if you use Gnome as a style reference, what eventually is going to happen is, especially for environments, you're going to see this sort of, frankly, like kind of like a muddy result. This one was using it as a style reference. Exactly. Okay. So, okay, let's see what you guys are working on. We got a necromancer from Ancient here. That's fun. We have, let's see here. Oh, there we go. That's what Rainbow Fantasy Witch from Really Smart. Yes. I love that second result with the night sky and the
cute.
It's so cute. I love this. So you guys are going to see that when it comes to like let's take Noten AI's gnome petting a kitty here. Okay. There is no stylized that's set on this, so we can try to enforce a more cleaner aesthetic on this by just increasing the styles. But you can notice her knees are like gone. Like there's no table, there's nothing representing that, right? So let's go ahead and do a variation subtle of this. And I'm going to set the stylized to 850, but you can go as high as 1,000. And we'll see what we get right off the bat with that. Because we're kind of aiming more for something like this, right? Where it's like very, very clean, something we can work with very easily. Let's take a look at how that looks. Oh wow, giraffes. Why giraffe? Oh, I'm on fire. This is great. I'm loving the rainbow witch. It's very, very cute. The goblins are cute too. Okay, I keep saying things are cute. I'm gonna move on here. Where
I really like that rainbow hat that
Really Smart was working on.
that, yeah.
It's super cool. I really do like the character designs that you guys end up coming up with when it comes to particularly like rainbow crystals. Like look at this. That's this is like a Chrome character, a Chrome villain that we're working on in the on our server. And this is a very cool result. Very cool. Let's take a look at that result that I'm going to jump to present here. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Now look what happens when the only thing I did was essentially just do variation subtle, keeping all the same prompt except for up in the stylize, and look at how much cleaner this result is just right off, just by doing that. Just by making that one parameter change, we suddenly have Midjourney fix all the little inconsistencies that are essentially that become present as you start in painting. So let's go back up to the original and compare that really quick. Essentially, by using variation subtle, what you're doing is you're using this as a template, and then allowing Midjourney to kind of redo the art, to redo the line art and stuff. If we did this as a variation strong, it would not preserve the composition. It would essentially just almost completely try this again, but maybe a little cleaner. As long as you use a high stylized, though, it tends to make results that are cleaner in the line art, especially. Smoke up, Frodo. No. Oh, okay.
I love the capybaras.
Yeah, I love these guys. Is that that's Celeste coming in here now? Fungi Mancer has been working on this galactic character, and it's so cool that this looks great. This is awesome. Love it. So we could see here that this one was just rerolled by Noten, but it didn't have the stylize up, and you could see that it recreates that lower effort, that more minimalist, which could be useful in certain scenarios, but most people want an image that looks finished, that looks as clean as possible. So the other way that we can handle this, like say like we really, really liked one of these expressions, but we weren't happy with like the backgrounds, right? We can also do that with in painting. So I'm going to find a little bit of a different result here that has a bit of a murky background so that we can quickly clean that up. So let's go back up here. I know we had one earlier. Ooh, I like me playing the guitar. That's fun. Just a moment. Let's find a good result here. I say good like a result with a murky background so we can try this out. Okay. This is the gluttony eating the bread. It's too funny. Okay, I'm just gonna do it on this one. Sure, why not? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do variation subtle, but I'm gonna select everything I don't like about this image, and for the sake of argument, I'm just going to select everything that isn't the cat or her or her head, right? So let's do all the background like that. Select a little more of the tail, the table. I'll even select the hand because I don't like that hand. And we'll keep the hat mostly the same. The important thing, though, is that we want to make sure that whatever background is here, we want to make sure that we try to select and get rid of it, because any sort of shading or effect or influence on the result will certainly kind of muck up this process here. Okay, so now we have this selection here. It doesn't exactly match Gnome too much because I'm not really too worried about the outfit, but we have two choices. We could either just increase the stylize like we did earlier with the variation subtle, and it will do exactly the same thing. It'll essentially clean up whatever art is around it, but it's going to completely change the composition. That's the difference between variation subtle and in painting in this regard, is that with variation subtle, it's going to keep the composition. We'll try to basically keep her kind of she's looking down at a cat at a table or whatever. But with this, we're essentially allowing for the composition to change, which means that if I now get rid of the character reference entirely, okay, so we're just going to highlight and select everything from this character reference, remove it, okay, and now we're going to replace it with the Phantasma code, with the style reference for Phantasma, and then add a stylize of 850 to it, just to give us a really high number. And we didn't change any of the prompt. We could have described the environment. So like, let's try to do that too. We'll just, cause it saves all of our changes and stuff in our Discord account. So we can easily now just try that again. But this time we'll say, petting a cat on the streets of the fantasy kingdom. And I'm going to add medieval in there too. Medieval fantasy. And then hit submit. And then we'll compare these two. Okay, now look at this. Look at the world. Look how fleshed out the world is, and how cleaner and nicer it is in terms of the in terms of where she is in the world. Her shading, it makes sense. Like, this is an incredible result, actually. So if I now up this one, oh my god, you guys.
Ooh.
My gay friends are gonna be like all over these results, guys. I'm loving it. But if we now look at this, okay, we can now basically wax on and wax off this result to be even cleaner if we wanted it to. Okay, so we now have a nice environment for her to be in. We can hit variation subtle, and I'm going to paste the Gnome code back in, and we will we have to delete everything and just paste the code. Okay, and then I'm going to highlight and select everything that's wrong about Gnome here. So that's basically just this. And you know, I'll even include her face, because I want to change her expression a little bit here. And I will include a little bit of the hair to make it a little less minimal, because I think that's what's going to happen here if I re-roll this really quick. And get rid of her knees, because well, no, I want to keep the knees because I want to basically reinforce the Midjourney that I want her sitting like this. I like the way she's sitting, so I'm going to keep that for now. And then with the stylize set to 850, we're good to submit this. We could make her a certain expression. Like, we could say that she is, frustrated at the cat, or relieved to see the cat, whatever we want to do. At this point, we control everything in terms of the prompt. It's amazing. So you can see here that the results aren't going to always be perfect, but we now are describing the prompt more closely. Petting a cat on the streets of a medieval kingdom. That is now giving us, a little more dynamic of an angle, but we also are losing Gnome a bit here too. We were able to get her on her knees again here, but she is, this is this weird dark thing invading the scene. Yeah, it's a little worse. So I oftentimes just keep re-rolling until I get something that I like when it comes to the prompts that I'm writing, especially when they're kind of really complex or specific. I like what no one's doing here. I love this expression. I love this mouth. That's awesome. Good job. Let's see here. Oh, it's the gay capybara kingdom. There you go. I love it. Freaking love that. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the other expressions we have. Oh, I just got jumped back. Hold on. Going to the zoo. Okay. Let's take a look at these other expressions. Okay. You can see that because I selected the face and I let it reroll within the style reference of, within the character reference of Gnome with no lower character weight or anything like that, it's actually going to be, it's going to honor the character art very, very closely, even down to the number of expressions that we have inside of our Gnome code. So I mean, it looks like here that she's kind of like talking to the cat like she's like frustrated at the end of her day a little bit. Like to me, she's just like, life must be so easy for a cat. You could just sit here and do nothing and just whatever. And then the cat is like immediately chased by a bunch of dogs as she leaves, reminiscing about that cat's life. That kind of that kind of humor I think would work for this scene. And yeah, this is awesome. I mean, we literally just in painted a new face and got the outfit back, and we just got to clean up details. Like her braids are kind of bad here now, and we just kind of start fixing up details slowly. So very, very cool. Barvazon has been doing a young apprentice wizard with his character reference, and that's awesome. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. At this point, I'm going to take a little break. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to take the time to absorb all of the results that you guys have been, taking in, including some of your goofier results, like this weird dragon for my troll feed.
It's Troll's icon.
Yeah. I love how weird it is. It's just like, it reminds me of, like the dastardly villain from Train robbing cartoons, like Bullwinkle, like what, but he's a dragon. It's fun.
I feel like I remember him saying it was supposed to be like Salvador Dali or something like that.
Okay, nice.
I might be wrong.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of scroll through these while I grab a little drink here, just to kind of let my throat relax for a minute. But I want to hear from you guys. So please jump over to VC Text and start chatting with us. Your chats will show up in the stream here, and it's just super, super cool to be able to like interact with you guys, see what you guys are making, see what you're doing here. I would love to be able to chat with you guys directly. So share your projects, share what you're working on. I want to hear more from you guys. Okay. So I'm going to let the stream scroll through here, and I'll be back in about 2 minutes.
And I'm looking at them. Oh, giraffes are rad. You guys ever play? You guys ever hear about prompt battles? It's this game. I don't know. Who put it together or anything, but I was kind of thinking I might check that out this weekend. I heard from some lady that it goes from 3:30 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays, and on Sundays I heard that it goes from 10 a.m. Eastern to 6 p.m. Eastern. Ooh, is that a tiefling? A purple tiefling? I heard some of the people in the chat might have played it once or twice. Maybe they can tell you a little bit about it if you never heard of it. It's a great time. I was lying before. I do prompt battles. How was my acting? Was I an amazing actress? Pretending that I don't know anything about it? I mean, I definitely don't know anything, but if I do know one thing, it's prompt battles. I'm going out for with the Daytime Emmy Award for my acting. I love these rainbow people. I was just trying to scroll up on Victor's stream, scrolling down. Have you guys ever scrolled against somebody else's scroll in a video or something like that? Getting trolled by the scroll. Oh, legal beagle. Midjourney really likes beagles. And I love the apprentice wizard. Ooh, is that a rare black spotted giraffe? They should make some of those. I want to write a letter to someone. How do we get black spotted giraffes in higher population? Because those are beautiful. Capybara king, the chillest animal among all of the chillest animals in all the land. Are you back?
Yep. And
You can knock me off the stage now.
no, I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it. You gotta keep it entertaining. Like and you have great acting, Kinky.
Thank you. I'll take a bow now.
If I still had your
Bye-bye.
character up, I would dance it around there for a moment. But
enjoy.
Alrighty. Okay. Thank you guys for giving me that break. I really do appreciate you guys sticking around. It's so let's see here. I loved what you showed on Photoshop with the short little gnome, right? Okay, cool. Well, I really appreciate hearing that. Cardillion, thank you so much for joining, by the way. We really appreciate you coming in here and checking out what we're doing. If you are new to Midjourney, right, there's a lot of things that you guys may not know in terms of how this stuff works. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to message inside of VC text, and you can find VC text right above the stage here. VC text and VC create. We are making prompting things inside of VC create and chatting inside of VC text. So one of the things that you guys may not know about is how to save your characters inside of Midjourney. Okay. We're basically taking advantage of a function called /prefer, which just gives us a short code for whatever we want. So it could be various links to be a character reference. It could be a single link for a style reference or whatever you want to do, really. But let's go ahead and save the actual GNOME code as a /prefer, so we can easily prompt it whenever we want. So I'm going to copy everything up to the word sref here, and I'm just going to copy this, copy text, okay? And then I'm going to write /prefer, and then I'm going to hit Option Set at the top here. Now, if I write anything here, it'll be the shorthand for whatever like links I got. So I'm going to hit gnomed because that's actually what Legal Beagle called it. So I'm going to before I hit enter, I hit +1 more, and then it says value, and then paste in the value your links. So if you just have a bunch of character references, then you can just paste that. But basically, we're just going to clean up this code a little bit here. We want to just have it be the sref. Oh no, I copied all the brackets. I don't think the brackets change anything, but you'll notice it added like other message like Barvazon's link, like his username is tagged here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this. And the brackets shouldn't affect it as long as we don't delete any of them. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now this is saved as gnomed. Okay. So if I now write /imagine and then say, let's just do a Tengu, and then hyphen gnomed, it replaces whatever was written for gnomed with everything that I had saved in there. So this is how I was able to pull up Victor so easily. So if I do the same thing again, but I write, let's just say, let's do like Fortnite dance or something dumb. Fortnite dance, then cref hyphen Victor, because I have him saved in there, and then hyphen gnomed. Okay. What's going to happen is if we combine two prefers into one prompt. So we are going to get a cref of Victor doing a cringy Fortnite dance, and in the gnomed style. And look at this. The first result is pretty accurate to what I was expecting. So it is something to where the shorthand side of it lets you prompt very quickly, right? So if I wanted him to do something like, say, like I am hanging out with some friends, and I want to make a joke, all right, I want to make a meme, I want to emote with Victor here, I could easily now re-roll this, and just say like, let's have him holding a sign that reads, I don't know, something silly. Let's do it's let's wait, what is, I see that there's some people talking. I'll read to what you guys are reading or saying here in a moment. But I'll do holding a sign that reads tacos. Sure, tacos. Why not? And essentially what's going to happen here is it's with the character reference set by default at 100. What essentially we get is a strong lean on the character reference. If I wanted it to be a little more diverse, like it'll probably change by gender if I drop it too low. But there you go. He's now holding a sign that says tacos. You notice that he's not actually holding them though. It's like covering his mouth, like as if it's a sensor bar. If we re-roll this and now drop the character weight to 50, we'll probably preserve the gender, but have him actually holding the sign. Because by lowering the character weight, we're basically allowing Midjourney more creative freedom to move away from the character design. And all of Victor's designs, like inside of his character reference here, if I kind of pull them up, his arms are going to be straight down. That is just because he's my second oldest character, guys. Like I've had him for so long now, that his arms are all very straight when what we want is diversity in these results. So like we get around that by dropping the character reference. Look at this. So it's oh wait, that's not mine. That's Agent's. Let's see. Okay, there it is. Now with the drop character, he's properly holding the sign that says tacos in 3 out of the 4 results. Amazing what just dropping your character weight will do for being able to make these quick little meme jokes and stuff like that. It's super fun. Okay, what are you guys talking about here? Let's see. Vendy says, was making use of this function for a good bit, but a lot of my links eventually broke on me. It's a bit easier now to dig through and figure out which links are broken from the website, but it's kind of killed my functionality for me back then. Yeah. A lot of the presets broke because Discord changed its system. It changed to have what is called an execution code inside of your links. Just because Discord was spending too much money on server space, kind of understandable. And so Midjourney had to shift over to its own cloud storage of images. So as long as you make sure the link says mj.run in it, you're good. It means that it's saved on Midjourney servers now. If you use the Discord links by themselves, so like any of these links by themselves, if you read on the top URLs, it says discordapp.com, that will eventually execute. It'll eventually stop working. So you want to make sure that you copy the links that Midjourney gives you rather than the links that Discord gives you. And that might require more explanation again later. But it's okay. What is this? Okay. Tarantula Brides of Estonia, 1783, from Snoopy the Time Lord. I love that the outfits are so badly worn by them. Like as if
to be the perfect.
this is too freaking stupid funny. Like I love it. Like when I say stupid, it's a compliment, I promise, because it's funny. It's legitimately funny that they can't fit in the little like evening wear dresses that
They
that oh god, this is legitimately funny. Like, oh god,
they
so
need to be permanent characters somewhere, like the two old guys in the balcony on the Muppet Show. What are their names? Statler and Waldorf.
Right, right. I could see them being kind of commentary people or whatever. I can also see them being like what do you call it? Like the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood, where it's like they are so obviously badly keeping their outfit or whatever, but it's like there's a little girl who's just listening to everything they're saying or something like that, and it's just not even seeing that they're in this bad disguise. It's too funny to me that the dresses are popping up the way that they are, though. Like it just looks like someone quickly put it on their heads and just said good enough. Yeah, I love this. Great result. Tacos.
If you're not going to use those characters, I want them to hang out with Kinky and Fantasia.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I especially if you just like borrow parts of them, right? Like if you use the whole thing, it's gonna do some wacky stuff for CREFs. But yeah, it's you could always just select a segment of an image and use that too. So like I use snipping tool a lot, or I just load into Photoshop and marquee the area that I want to reference. But like for example, if I just quickly select like the character on the left here with the book, just because I think the book is funny. I'll copy this and then go all the way down to the bottom here. And you notice that when I paste it, I'm only referencing what I absolutely need to represent this character. And it's probably going to screw up pretty good, like just because it's whatever. But like now that I have a link for it, I can use that as a cref, gnomed, right? So it adds all the code from the style reference for gnome onto there. And then I'm going to say spider. Actually, we probably should describe it as a spider in disguise, just so that we at least keep a little bit of the theme going here. And then we'll hit submit. Capybaras. I watch a lot of Urban Rescue Ranch on YouTube with my wife.
Love Urban Rescue Ranch.
Yeah, that guy's great. Super funny. Definitely that Gen Alpha, Gen Z energy that I'm like, I don't get, but it's really funny to me when it comes from him for some reason. So yeah, it's he has a whole capybara thing that he does, mukbang capybara thing, where just basically recording 3 hours of capybaras eating things, and it's dumb, but it goes in the background just fine for me. Okay. All right. So now that we have this as a style reference set to Gnome, like Gnome's code and whatnot, look how it interpreted that. It turned it into like a cape or like a robe, but it kept the kind of weird gangly arm things and saw them as antennas. So this sort of like, I'm essentially like interpreting what Midjourney is going to come out. This is the testing side of it. This is where we go, how functional is this? How good is this of a reference? And in all honesty, this is a pretty bad reference, because look at how dynamic each one of these results are. It's not consistent. It's consistent in the aesthetic because we've set a style reference, but the character design is not consistent. It's not a very functional cref in my opinion, but it gives a fun result, so it's cool to check out. Oh, you got it pretty consistent with what it was your prompter. College goth girl sits outside 1999 Hot Topic. This is more like a Victor prompt than a weird spider dude prompt. So I'm just gonna re-roll this and add Victor as the cref here, because 100% Victor would be in front of a Hot Topic. I shopped at Hot Topic way too much as a teenager. If you're not familiar with me and what I do, I make comics. I really do love using Midjourney for exploring ideas and stuff. But Victor is actually based off my teenage self. I'm a bit too old to be acting like how Victor acts sometimes, but um, the I definitely hot topic. And so we would need to reinforce the mall. We would need to basically say, hey, let's make this hot topic. Okay. So we'll do that just for fun here. But um, yeah, I totally bought kilts and things at Hot Topic all the time when I was a teenager. So let's grab a hot topic. Uh uh, so I'm gonna get rid of all my. I have way too many tabs open. So let me go ahead and not blindly Google things in front of a stream because that is an easy way to get in trouble. Especially Hot Topic for some reason I feel like is going to give me risque results the more that I scroll down. So um, let's go ahead and find the outdoor for Hot Topic.
Like going to the back of the store at a Hot Topic. It's where all the risque stuff is.
Oh yeah, totally. I would actually say that if it was a Spencer's Gifts, then yes, like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Spencer's is what I was thinking of.
yeah, like
God, I'm getting old. I'm getting so old.
At my mall, they were right across from each other.
Yep. Yeah. In my mall, they were about like 6 stores across, and the kids always jumped back and forth between them, right? Okay, so
What if it's like how Taco Bell and what are they, like Kentucky Fried Chicken and some like the pizza one? There's a pizza place that are always near each other
well, I mean,
because they're all the same people.
well, yeah, because it's Yum Foods. Yum Foods owns all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny when I was in middle school. I knew a kid whose dad was like one of the higher ups over at Yum Foods, right? Because it was in Kentucky or whatever. And it is amazing how much of a difference that kid's life was from everyone else. I went to a birthday at his house once, and I've never been on a bigger property before. It was 600 acres and a ridiculously rich family. And I just got to go to the pool, and they were just like, okay, you got to go to the third guest house down the street, and I'm like, third guest house, like ridiculously rich family. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Right. So when it comes to the Yum Foods, they have all the money in the world to do whatever they want now. Okay, all right.
The only subsidiary of Spencer's is actually their most profitable thing, which is Spirit Halloween.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's like the only thing that occupies malls anymore. Okay, all right. So we're gonna try to get Victor to be standing outside this hot topic by using an image reference. Okay, so if we've been messing around with character referencing, we've been messing around with style referencing, we've done a lot of like basically deep dives into those two parameters. But now we're gonna take the last method of working with images, which is called an image blend. This is the oldest method of working with images with Midjourney, but by combining them all together, we actually really do control the results. So let's find Victor with the hot topic prompt. And I'm not comfortable with the amount of eating animals that you guys are like. Understand, I'm vegetarian, so when I see stuff like this, I'm like, oh no, oh no,
oh no,
oh no. Okay, all right. So we have the hot topic result that we have here that doesn't have any hot topic in it, right? It's just kind of a generic ball, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-roll this. But now that I have a link to that hot topic, I'm actually going to paste the link at the front of the prompt. And what that's going to do is it takes this entire word, like the college goth girl sits outside 1999 hot topic, right? And it will now weight that against the image here. So it essentially 50% of the image is this link, and the other 50% of the 50% of the prompt is this image, and the other 50% of the prompt is the words college goth girl sits outside 1999 hot topic. Everything else that comes after this actually modifies those results basically. So we're going to submit this at first, but then we're also going to do the same thing, but we're going to add one more parameter to the end here, and that is image weight, IW. And this goes up to 3. You can go as low as 0.1 if you want. But if we set this to something pretty high, like 2.2, I usually go with 2.2. It's basically saying I want you to be as close as possible to this image. Like image weight of 3 is the max amount that you can say, like, all right, be as derivative as possible to whatever image is inside my prompt. Okay. So, ta-da! Victor's in front of the hot topic now. And so it's incredibly powerful to know how to combine the 3 different parameters for working with images. Okay. And so the thing is there's one element of this prompt that is not being represented, right? And that is the word girl. Goth. Victor's pretty goth, but like goth girl is not represented, and we can fix that with a single tweak to this prompt here. So we're going to come up to here. We're going to re-roll this really quick. Actually, let me come back down to here. Victor is a weird spider person. Okay. So where's that result? Here it is. Okay. So now I will come down to the back here and I'll add one more parameter, --CW. And then if I set that really low, I'm going to set it to 0. It will only look at like generally like an inspiration for Victor, right? So it'll just a little bit of his face and then the hair. And we are going to essentially be able to make a female version of Victor just by dropping the character weight to 0. So look at that. Isn't that freaking accurate? Like, that's crazy. Like, we have a goth girl Victor sitting in front of a hot topic. Yeah, I mean, this is even nuts for me, guys. Like, it's nuts for me to see like this level of like matching expectation, right? So the intent being preserved, huge. I love it. Alrighty. The safe space for goth kids in the mall in the 90s. Yes, that's certainly true. It was a safe space until you just left Hot Topic, and then there would be people like staring at you, you know? It was definitely not a rosy time. We were at the tail end of cliques, like of high school cliques.
Yep.
At that point, there was still arguments of goths versus preps versus whatever, jocks, preps, and goths and punks and all that sort of stuff. I talked to kids today, and they're just there's not that alienation that happened back then. I think it's just because like everyone's connected with social media now, and we can see like all sorts of different eras inside of our inspirations for how we dress and how we look and all. I just don't think that sort of contention between people really exists nowadays. So maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if there's any Gen Zs or alphas in the crowd here, feel free to correct me on this. But the people, yeah, okay. So Rhapsody says people are also way more scared to be different. Yeah, that's really interesting. Now, is it? So is it? Do you think they're more scared now, or are they less scared now? To be standing out basically. Like I definitely was followed by people when as an odd looking as a bit of an odd looking goth kid and stuff like that. I was definitely followed around when it came to people both liking and not liking the way I looked. But I just don't think that there's that same level of like, oh wow. So we got two competing opinions here. Rhapsody says more scared. You do one thing wrong and get full hate train. That is certainly true. Cancel culture, I think, is so much more effective now than it ever was before. And then Meeful said less scared. I'm curious from Meeful, like why you feel like that. And I think it depends on where you live. From Courtney. Yeah, you're probably right about that. I'm coming at this from the very distorted lens of an American. Okay. But yeah, at least when it comes to the popularity of Hot Topic and stuff going down as Okay, there you go. Yeah, Ancient put a vote up. So, what do you say? People are more scared, or less scared, or the same? You can vote now at VC Text to let us know how you feel about standing out from the crowd, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up, guys, is because like I've felt way more open than I have ever felt about myself, my, you know, everything from like who I am, what I think, and whatnot to like even just like my sexuality and stuff is just something that I've never been able to feel open to talk about. And I'm just so appreciative of such an inclusive space that Midjourney has provided for me and for my friends and for you guys, just because it's it's an outlet. It's a wonderful outlet to see what, what is possible. Like what sort of different worlds can we inhabit, right? I mean, yes, we're doing a lot of anime. Yes, we're doing a lot of like fun alt world kind of stuff here. But when you talk about like someone who's kind of going through things that has that needs an outlet to be able to like just to deal with the stresses that they have, like Midjourney is actually a wonderful, use of your time to be able to say, all right, I've put my mind in a different place. I've transported myself to somewhere that makes me happy, and I can now, share that. I can express with it. And the more that you guys like use it as like an emote or to express yourself on Discord, Reddit, wherever you want to go, the more likely you're going to get that positive feedback coming back to you of people just, excited to talk to you because like, they also want to escape. They also want to find a new place to inhabit, right? So, when it comes to like what, especially with my comics, they're all set in the 90s when it comes to the Sage and Michael comics. And that escapism is very much intentional. Like I have the goal of having people feel like they got transported back to a time they might feel closer to than today. And I feel like everything going on with AI and all that stuff is also encouraging people to find escapist like mentality. It's kind of, I'll be honest, guys, it's kind of reminding me of like, do you guys remember when the first Iron Man movie came out and it was in the middle of the Iraq War? And at least for Americans, this is going to be leaning towards Americans, okay? Um, at least for Americans, there's this kind of like buckled downness about everything since 9/11. And when the first Iron Man movie came out, it was a wild success, but like you have to ask why. And because there's been previous Marvel movies, there's been previous action movies, like it really doesn't stand out until you ask the juxtaposition. Sorry, until you ask it to think at the time period of when that movie came out. There was a lot of people that wanted to basically just be a superhero and end the war, right? That's what they wanted it to be. And Iron Man like really did that for people. It was like this escapist fantasy that people were all about because we were in the middle of war. And I do feel like some people feel like that with AI now, where they are trying to escape from the kind of like realities that everything is changing very fast. And there's a little bit of guilt that some people, I've talked to plenty of artists that feel guilt about like their excitement about using AI themselves, and then they can't express that at all. Like they can't even share it on their social media sites at all without getting, dragged through the coals. And we just have to give that time, but I do feel like the escapist element to all this is what is kind of underplayed right now. I'm very excited to see what we end up getting into moving forward.
Did
Okay.
you
Yeah.
did you happen to see the conversation about where Snoopy asked if Victor was your second character, who was your first?
Yeah.
It was just, it was a little bit up above the
Okay.
above the last
Got it.
question he talked about.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, Victor was like he was originally a doodle from when I was a kid. Like when I was a teenager, I oftentimes distracted myself from doing important schoolwork and tests and stuff by doodling on the side of my tests, and then realized that I only had 5 minutes to finish 100 questions or something. Um, I will leave it like I'll leave it like this. When it comes to the first character that I was messing with, I was largely trying to figure out what sort of use cases people would have for AI, like what sort of things people would be doing with it. And right now we're essentially, my first character was a smattering of different um uh 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 like like people. Like it was not one person. Okay. I did everyone from like Kanye to Joe Biden to everybody, just trying to learn what Midjourney actually does with people, like images of people and things. And so I say Victor is my second just because like I prototyped a lot of stuff with a lot of random real life people. And it is something that I quickly learned that my own art made so much more like reliable results when it came to me being able to direct the characters. Um, if I just type something, I can make anybody do anything, sure. But the when it came to like, I want to have a very particular expression of this character. It's better for me to draw the initial sort of like guide for it and then use that as an image prompt. So we can mess around with a
I
little bit
think
of that.
I feel like we need a like a big Kevin Bacon banana man, like all of the things that you made before, right?
Yes, yes.
Because I
Thank
was
you so
saying,
much for
I was
reminding me
saying,
about Kevin Bacon.
I was saying that like all of a sudden when Subi asked, well, if Victor was your second character, who's your first, right? And then I said, I feel like this is going to be some sort of a huge plot twist slash plot point slash reveal canon with foreshadowing, like you like, oh, he's the second character I ever made, right? And so I'm like, so it's like the brother that Victor Gnarly threw away comes back for revenge. Some big Mojo Jojo stuff on Phantasma. So like you could have like a big blob character that's just like, Father, why did you forsake me? And he takes over, he tries to take over Phantasma, and all the people kill him or
Right,
go,
right.
have to defend Phantasma.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, there's definitely some like old characters, especially from my sketchbooks, that I could pull up. But you did hit the point though. I didn't want to focus too much on one person, right? But the very first thing I ever prompted was Kevin Bacon cooking bacon. That was the very first. You can go back on your Midjourney accounts, go over, scroll all the way back. So if you don't know this, you can go to beta.midjourney.com, go to your archive and just scroll all the way down and find your first prompt and try it now versus when you started, because especially if you're like me and you got started like right at the beta, those initial curiosities you had about AI are fascinating to dig into. So like, I love Kevin Bacon cooking bacon. Like, it's just too stupid for me to not be humored by the results of this. And now with the Gnome code on top of all that, yeah, we get this super clean, ridiculous line art to it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to dig through the old prompts and update them with the new versions and all that stuff. You might hear my
Maybe like
cat.
one day Globby just sprouts a bunch of heads, you know what I mean? And it
Exactly, yeah.
turns out that it was him all along.
Exactly. Um, yeah. So I'll show you guys a little bit of at least my like kind of like drawn approach to uh at least to how I direct things for my comics, because I feel like this is a good opportunity for people who may not have seen like at least my workflow in action, right? Because it's what we've gone through: image prompts, we've gone through style referencing, we've gone through character referencing. I showed you guys how using the hot topic allowed us to be able to say, hey, this image here, I need the result to predominantly be this image, this the hot topic. So let's really go nuts with the creative side of that. Okay. So I'm gonna hop on over to Photoshop here. Um, and we will show what this process here. You might hear my cat. She turned 20 about 2 weeks ago and lets everyone know about it every damn day. But let me let her in here so she stops. Yeah, hi. Hi. You want to come inside? No, she doesn't. She turned around. Okay, so we might we might hear the occasional cat scream. But yeah, she is 20. 20. Yeah, I got her when I was 17. Yeah, I got her when I was 17. So now you guys know how old I am. But let's go ahead and try out some stuff in Photoshop really quick because I love all the results you guys are making. These are some really really cool stuff, and I can't wait to dig into it here in a minute. We'll do another scroll through when I need to take another break here, but we are going to do something I think is at least in my opinion is like the holy grail of working with character art with Midjourney. Okay, and it does require having a drawing tablet or some creative skill when it traditional or digital media skills to do this. Okay. So, with that said, let's go ahead and hop on over to Photoshop here. So, I still have the drawing earlier, but let's go ahead and get rid of this and we'll create a new canvas. Okay. Oops. Get rid of this. Hit no. And I will go ahead and create. I'm actually going to let her. I'm going to force her in this room because she's just loud. Hold on a second. Okay. I now have a cat in my hand. Okay. All right. So hopefully she doesn't scream directly into the mic. Yeah. Hi. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I have this blank canvas here. It's a little too small of a canvas, actually. Let's go ahead and increase that size just a little bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I got my pen out and I want to direct a character with my art. I want to be able to say, okay, get Victor, get anybody to do this specific pose, this specific action or whatever. Okay. So let's go ahead and try to like do a quick sketch here. So I'm going to make a new layer, make the line art black, and then let's just start drawing Victor here real quick. So I'm just going to give him a very basic pose to start with here. And then we can make him basically do whatever we want in terms of action. So I'm just going to make a quick little doodle here. And let's have at least when I've tried to make cats holding in, let's do a more dynamic pose than this. This is a pretty boring pose. Let's do something more like this. Yeah, I'm going to go with kind of a forced perspective here. So let's go ahead and apply the thumb, finger, and then just a couple knuckles coming in here. Okay. It'll be a little bit like the objection from that one legal game. Okay. And I'm basically just going to use this as a pose. You're welcome to use posing like pre-drawn like posing sheets and stuff and whatnot, but you're going to get so much better results if you just draw it, honestly. So I'm going to make him pretty angry here. Let's go with something a little less cat-like. Yeah, something like that. I'm just gonna do a very quick doodle, guys. Like, please don't judge my art. Please judge my art. And so I'm just gonna do this really quick, just to give us something to work off of here. And I'm purposely not trying to put too much detail in here because the more line art I add, the more it tends to confuse Midjourney in terms of my intent of these things. So I'm just doing this here with Sage. I'll actually draw her hair a different color to kind of encourage a certain messy hair. But I'm just gonna do a little fill in of this here, just to really reinforce that I want a sleeve here. Again, I know this is muddy and messy, guys, but I'm just trying to demonstrate something for you guys, because once we have like the native drawing app in Midjourney and stuff, it's going to be nuts when we can do this stuff more natively. But let's go ahead and kind of clean up them fingers a little bit. Okay. All right. So I have a very, very basic hand drawn and Victor pointing out here. So let's kind of do something like this. Okay. Okay. Very, very simple sketch. Nothing too special about this, but I'm going to copy it now. Let's see here. And then I'm going to hop back over to Discord. And I'm going to paste this image, this quick sketch that I just made, into Discord. Okay. Now I copy this link. And I am going to /imagine, paste the link. Okay. And then I'm going to write cref. And we could do anybody else but Victor, but I'm just going to stick with Victor because I mostly drew his hair in there anyway. And then I'm going to write gnomed to kind of create that gnomed, the line art from that. So as you see, we have the link. I'm just going to describe him as pointing at camera because I want to do just a little bit of reinforcement of what I drew. And then gnomed at the end will create the style reference. So let's submit this. And then I already know that I'm going to have to increase the image weight, but I want to show you guys what the default result looks like here first. Okay. All right. And then immediately right off the bat, we have a result that looks about what I wanted Victor to be. Even the mouth shape's the same. It has a little bit of an under, like I would put a little bit of a lip on that. But we have the finger pointing at camera. We have the thumb and the hand at mostly the same angle. It's a little more pointed directly at camera, right? So if I wanted this to be even more like the sketch, we'll pull up the image weight parameter again. So -IW, and then I'll set that up to 2.2. It's kind of my magic number, but you can go as high as 3. And we'll see what we get for that. It's going to follow a lot more strictly to what I have drawn by increasing the image weight. Okay. So you can see here that because of the aspect ratio, it's actually cutting off the drawing in order to complete the image. Okay. So let's have the aspect ratio match the art better. We'll come down to here, switch the aspect ratio to 1:1. And we'll see if we get a better result off of that. We could always pan over and mess. That's my salad. The random stuff that comes up on these streams, guys. Okay. All right. And so now with the aspect ratio switched to 1:1, we suddenly have it much more representing the angle. Now his face is turned the wrong direction here, but now we have the hand at least mostly where it needs to be. So, like it's really, really powerful when you start to prompt for things with your art, like where you're actually sketching the guides for it. So let's take the one that we saw that was pretty good. This one here. Okay. And now we're going to do a variation subtle, but we're going to remove the link now. Okay. Because what we're essentially saying is keep the composition. The composition is what I just drew. Okay. So keep the composition of variation subtle, but remove the links so that there's no more influence of the kind of loose, sketchy line art. Okay. And then we're going to submit with that. What should happen is we get a result that's very, very similar to that, but cleaned up because we have removed any influence of a sketchy quickly drawn Photoshop image. And there you go. It is certainly cleaned up. Especially when it comes to like where how clean the hand is here, night and day difference. When it comes to how much cleaner it's so much punching of salads. So by using variation subtle, we are able to remove the kind of roughness and basically use whatever the initial result is as a draft, as like a template for what we want to work on next. So, or at least for the cleaner version that comes next. So yeah, there you go. I loved using the drawn method because it means that I can, if I get stuck somewhere in one of my comics, I just draw a little doodle and then it's fixed, right? But let's see what a Rhapsody's doing here. Okay, pointing at camera, and then she uses the character in CRF. Okay, cool. So, like if you just describe pointing at camera, right? You are going to get all sorts of influences from the world, especially. So the image weight helps kind of lock it down to just a character asset, as opposed to now I need to remove the lighting, I need to remove the character from the background, like all that sort of stuff. Um, I tend to work more with assets rather than making final images because I'm making comics. I don't want to have to recolor and color balance every panel that I make. So the style referencing helps with that. Whatever you guys are doing with my little minimalist doodle as your character reference is so silly. It reminds me of a R-dash comic artist, I think Azeroth or Azotol. I forgot his name now, but he does a pretty expressive little thing like that. That's pretty fun. Cool. That's my salad. Leave my salad alone. Okay. All right. Well, that's fun.
Can we
Okay.
get the woman laughing at salad in here too? Remember that meme?
Yes. Please do. We can use memes to direct as well. So like I showed you drawing with my art in order to encourage a result that matches my intent, right? Especially like I said, if I get stuck in a corner, like I want to be able to just draw something really quick so that the character does that and then move on. But if say we want to make an homage, right? Or we want to basically just make a meme, what we can do is grab a meme of any kind, really. So I'm gonna do the this one I actually saw. I think it might have been Legal Beagle who did it. I forgot who, but we're going to take Fry from Futurama, the "Take My Money, Shut Up and Take My Money" meme, preferably with no text. Okay. Oh yeah, there you go. Yes, once in a lifetime. But we're gonna take this image of Fry, and then we're gonna use that as the direction for this. Okay. So /imagine, paste the link. Holding money is gonna be my prompt for today. Cref, Victor, and then gnomed in order to create the style. I don't really need the gnome onto there. It's really gonna. In fact, I'll get rid of it for now. I'm just gonna hit G6, and then we'll see what the default results are off of that, and then see if we want to do the whole Linclair or clean line art version. So by default, we're not really representing the meme much at all, right? It's there, but it's not being represented. So we need to increase the image weight significantly. Let's do IW 2.2 because that's my magic number. And then I'm going to add a CW of 0 just to allow as much flexibility inside of the character reference as possible. And then I'll bring Victor back in because he's most likely going to be wearing the wrong color outfit. But he's now in the correct pose for Fry holding money and like Fry holding money. Okay. We could just constantly re-roll this to create a more, to make it more in line with the meme, right? But for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and grab this one. I'm going to do a variation subtle. I'm going to grab everything that doesn't match Victor's character design as a marquee selection here. Something like this. Okay. And then change the character weight to 90 from 0. And that's it. That's the only thing I need to do in order to bring the character back from the loose pose figure. Basically the inspo for us today. So let's see what we get out of that. Trick was to use the images, both the image weight and the sref. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure that works plenty. I haven't really done a lot of that myself because there's a level of redundancy that happens there. That it may or may not work. Depending on what the sref is, right? But at least for. Okay, you can go now. I'm gonna let this cat out. That's the problem when you have a very old cat. She just everything has to be on her schedule. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Did the result come back yet? All right, it's still processing. It's at 35%. I hope you guys are having a great Friday. I am having a great Friday. It's been kind of a man, it's been a lot this last week. So I'm glad to get back into things. I do want to hear from you guys about what you guys were up to while I was gone for the last week or so. So if you got any projects or anything that you're working on, I would love to hear about it. But we also do an after party on this stream. So if you want to join my Discord, you can chat with us on stage, be able to share projects, share what you're working on, talk about what you're doing. That's fine. We would love to have you. Feel free to join. It is one of those things where it is a server that's really dedicated to storytelling, like to making original characters and stuff. So I imagine if you're watching this stream, you probably will have interest in joining that Discord too. But let's take a look at the result here. And again, the only parameter I changed was the character weight, and there is one glaring issue with this result, which is the hand is the wrong way. It's twisted the wrong direction, right? So why don't we just up-res one of these? I'll do this one here. And then I'm just going to re-roll the hands. We still have everything inside the prompt. It shouldn't be an issue to do this. But I'm just going to come in here and re-roll this. And if I need to, I'll drop the character weight again. Thank you so much for linking that, Kinky. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. The main thing is that you just click on that join button on VC Text, and that will take you to our server. Once you join the server, you're going to see that there is a couple of different unique things that you can do on our server specifically. The first thing is the Chaos Portal, which is essentially a place to drop your characters so that other Midjourney users can use them. It's kind of like a character selection screen, but it also lets you see stories that either the creators or the users are making around these characters. So like let's pull up Kravis here. Actually, I think I'm gonna pull up, because I pulled up Kravis last time. I'm gonna pull up Blobby here. Blobby has a ton of stuff for my troll for you. He's done some amazing stuff to start telling Blobby's story here. But he came out with this really, really fun comic where, and I'll just zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. This is really just kind of like the proof in the pudding of like one of the people who are just like anybody else here that just joined up, was curious to learn about making comics and all that stuff, and just I Troll For You went ham with this, and I absolutely love this whole comic. But it's the composition that really nails it. Like I can see every beat of the story that he had planned all the way through here, where it's like shot for shot I can see this portraying Blobby's slow approach into this kind of dungeony space. I especially love any of the peeking over the corners, and he does this a couple times in the comic. The warning on the door here is super cool. I really love how that came out. And I really do think he's definitely one of the valedictorians or whatever of my class. Like he's definitely S tier. And I want to show you guys this because this is all available inside of his thread. So if you like this story, if you like these characters, like I love how expressive Blobby is, especially, then the only thing you got to do is scroll up and copy his codes, and then you have the character. And we just heavily encourage you to share the stories that you make. So you'll notice here that there's like Luma videos of Blobby entering this space now. I could have this be in the middle of the comic and actually host his comic for him on Reddit or something, and just use this as a mid-panel result. And this is from Luma. And just suddenly the audience is literally transported into this place. It's so cool. I love this. I'd love to use this as an ending frame for something eventually. But you can see Gnome and Blobby are well on their way to already doing super, super fun stuff together. There's all sorts of using Blobby as emotes as well. Like I said, I Trollfuse knocking it out of the park for all the use cases that I was explaining earlier. So I love showing off Blobby here because of that. So please submit your characters because it means other people, like you could be asleep and then wake up and somebody, told a whole story with your character. Okay. That's the kind of place that we're setting up here. The other thing is that we have a fantasy nexus as well. And this is where you get all the official stuff for the fantasy series that we're working on together. So we have a couple of stills for what we're working on. And it's just really neat to be able to say, hey, okay, here's the story, here are the characters that we're working on, and here are the little promotional stills of like all the work that goes into making this comic. All of it's on the Discord, so please check it out. We have text channels, we have generation channels. There's all sorts of different projects people are working on here, so I hope to see you there. Okay, all right. Now that my little ad for Gnarly Comics is over, and some of you guys have started pitching the idea of like renaming it maybe like Gnarly Studios because we're doing more and more videos, right? So like I might do that. I don't know, maybe. Well, we'll see. Right now, comics is my bag, so I'm gonna stick to that for now. But let's hop back over to Midjourney here and see if you guys got any questions or anything like that. Ba-bam. Oh yeah, here's the hand. So you can see the only thing I did was just in paint around the hand, and then I was able to make it anatomically correct very, very easily. Just takes that result, and that will work. There you go. Clean up the wrist later, all good. Let's see what you guys have been doing. I'm gonna take a look at all your results here. I troll for you saying I like trains. You could actually do like an animated scene in this style, and it's gonna give you really clean, that consistent thickness of line art all the way through. But at some point, there is a fidelity loss that happens because of that. So the style reference for Phantasma purposely does not have hard line art in order to avoid that sort of a murkiness that happens the deeper in depth the images get. So yeah, I love all the Rios. Of course, I love Rhapsody's Rios. This is how are you getting these wonderful gradations? Is what M Posia asks, and they're using their own style reference. That's why. So over time, you guys are going to start picking favorites and all that kind of stuff, and also like as soon as you guys discover personalization codes, you're going to be like all over that for a while. But the reason I don't use the personalization code is just because it means that an entire workflow is kind of hinging on the status of a single setting. And it's just not a very long-term wise. I don't think it's a very smart decision to get a bunch of people, say, making a project with your style, with your personalization code. I think that might end up being frustrating to people who they rank a couple more images and suddenly their personalization code is different than before. Let's go ahead and I'm going to scroll through some of these results here and get some commentary on there. I'm going to throw Kinky back on the stage here if that's okay, Kinky. And I'm going to feed this cat because this cat that's why she keeps screaming at me, is because she's hungry. So I'm going to scroll through here, put Kinky on here if that's okay.
I'm here.
Awesome.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah. Let me go ahead and turn this on here, and I'll be.
Look at me.
There you are. Let's go ahead and turn me off here real quick. Where is that? I always get lost here a little bit. There we go.
I'm good at turning guys off. Don't you worry. So hi everybody. I did go ahead and link actually all of Victor's links above. And then if you're only seeing the server, that means that you have not scrolled up far enough. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and link all the other links right now, and also post the server in again, um, because there's a ton of them. Don't sleep on them. Got an, uh, the server. He's got his YouTube channel, his Twitch channel, his website, his tutorial, and an Instagram. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff for you to look at. He's got a lot going on. He's a very busy guy. Um, and I don't know if you've ever been to Rhapsody's little after party over at his place, but you are missing out if you don't go. It's a nice place to talk and have conversations that go back and forth a little bit more than he's able to do that here. And now that I have said all that, I'm going to remind you again about prompt battles this weekend. We have 16 hours of prompt battles going on. You don't have to stay for all of them. You don't even have to stay for most of them. It's just pop in, pop out event. Everybody's super nice and helpful, and we do a lot of weird prompting that you wouldn't do otherwise, to teach you how to do all kinds of things that might be out of your box. And who doesn't like an unboxing? I like an unboxing. And can we expect the VODs on YouTube? He said that he did a bunch of VODs over his little break, so that you might have some to catch up on there. And but let me give you those links again. Vid. Oop, there's the video one, just in like as a standalone, so that you can. And then I have to wait 15 seconds before I can post anything else, but I'll post the rest of them. But Migs, if you check that link right there, that will take you to all of his YouTube videos. Really smart. You are a great addition to the gang, and I'm so glad you came along. It was am I today? I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm a little slow. I had a few beers last night for the 4th of July with my sisters, and went out with them, and we had swimming at the old swimming hole with the Thunder Bridge, because we get to jump off a bridge there legally. It's great. I don't know if it's legal, but the police definitely don't pay any attention to us. And we like when cars drive by, we do like the whole that thing where you go toot toot to an 18-wheeler and then they honk the horn at you. Or that's what we do. And then they honk at us. It was great. Yeah, we lit off a few fireworks, but I think this is the first year that I really actually saw about drone shows. Have you ever heard about like the drone shows they're doing instead of fireworks? Those things are cool, man. I just saw a video. Let me see if I can grab it for you. But I want our city to get drone shows instead of fireworks, because they're progressive and they don't scare the animals and they don't give soldiers PTSD, and they're so much more beneficial. There was like a tweet that I was looking at, of just what the air looked like after the Independence Day celebrations, like this morning. They called it like a sky hangover or something. It was kind of alarming to look at, you know, making smog. You back?
Yeah, I'm back. Let's see here.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much for that. And my cat appreciates it especially. She is. You might hear her scream it out of frustration that her bowl is empty. But that'll be it. Then she'll go to bed.
But that's a lie.
Yeah. It's great having her for as long as I've had, but she's definitely elderly animal care is It's a whole kit caboodle, guys. Like people don't realize that like when you make the commitment to having a pet, it's like not only is it a lifelong thing, but like by the time it's your uh by the time your animal is reaching that age, like it's significantly more expensive to take care of and everything. I always recommend people to hold off on getting pets as long as possible, because it means that you have the most amount of, it's like having kids, right? Uh
Mm.
I recommend that you wait a little bit so that you can have that freedom to travel and not worry about your animals and stuff. Like I worry about my cat being gone for even a couple days because she's just, anything can be traumatic to an old animal like that. So but this here, this
So
it go ahead, sorry.
that's what how did she do with the fireworks last night? Because we were just talking about the fireworks.
Mhm.
Does it make her scared? Does she freak out?
She's largely deaf. She can't really
Ah.
hear anything anymore. That's partly why she screams so much. She's just like, I can't hear myself, so I'm going to scream even louder. Yeah, right. And Rhapsody's got it here. Meow. That's exactly what it is. It's very very demanding meows. Because she just can't hear herself at all. So she's not bothered by it. My dog Cooper is just terrified of fireworks. And my other dog Ziggy doesn't know why my dog's upset. Like why the other dog's upset. So he gets upset out of his confusion, and he actually causes damage to things. Like he will break doors and basically just panic. Australian Shepherds, that's my other dog, the Aussie. He has this it's commonly known online as PTSD face, but really it's just like when they panic, they either completely shut down or they just become wild. And for Ziggy, it's
Yeah,
definitely wild.
it's like that meme where you have all the soldiers fighting and like overlaid on somebody who's alarmed. And but we were just showing them this video here. I don't know if anybody clicked on it, but now I'm wondering what Midjourney would do within the style of drone show. Because if you look at this video that I posted, Victor, it's so beautiful.
Right, right. I love the drone show fireworks for all the reasons that you said. Like it is certainly something that I would love to see come to my town and stuff. I know that they're very expensive, so there's a good reason why they're not everywhere right now. But
Yeah.
I very much appreciate, because it's you'll never be able to do that kind of stuff with obviously just explosions in the sky.
Mm.
Um, it's very cool though. I do think that using that as a style reference, so we can do that really quick. So we have this image here. We can copy it, and I'm just gonna first do it as a style reference of just a generic. Let's just say like let's do a city skyline, and then sref, and we'll paste that image link from PBS here. And I won't even do this with Niji, because Niji will force a very strong anime aesthetic, and what we are largely recreating here is not anime. It's ooh, wow. Yeah, at least for the initial result, we got some really cool stuff. Just off of the V6, like you could see the city skyline, the effects of all like the dots and the lights are definitely being represented. But as soon as like I troll for you brought in Niji here, it reinterprets, it sees the dragon more, but it's seeing also the dots in the sky as this kind of magical particulate. The So let's lean into that a little bit here. There is, if you I oftentimes give this parallel to people. I don't really know how accurate it is, but I like to use technical terminology as much as possible. So if I am, it's the equivalent of like saying adhesive medical strips instead of band-aids, right? Because if I just say I want a Chinese dragon or something like that, then it's going to give us whatever its assumption of a Chinese dragon is, or a drone show or whatever the result is here. But if I ask for something more technical, right? Let's do like a particle effect on white back or on black background. And I'm going to do this as a style raw. And the reason I do this as style raw, especially for assets, is because it tends to give me a result that is like that has a lot less overproduction, a lot less busyness to it. So we'll take a look at what this looks like here. Yeah, look at this. So now by basically describing it as a particle effect, we were able to say, all right, yes, this gives me this sort of like firefly sort of aesthetic, but leaning towards more towards I want a specific effect as opposed to a skyline or fireworks or dragon or anything like that. So I'm oftentimes using like very specific technical terms to do this. So like if we pull up like a program like After Effects and we start to look at the list of filters that are on there, we can actually use those terms in order to kind of drive the result that we want. So like let's do I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head what are some of the default generators. So like let's do let's do a star star pattern generated particle effect with a cone emission, cone emitter. Yeah, I'm not spelling emitter right. There you go. Cone emitter, and then I'll say high gravity. These are all like settings inside of After Effects. And in terms of like trying to get it to do something pretty specific, we can kind of see how it interprets this as a style reference and then kind of go from there. So we got the star, we got it's interesting because the cone swirl or vortex swirl effect is a little harder for Midjourney to understand the context of what I'm asking for here. But it is basically represented because the way that the swirls are coming back into themselves. So if you imagine like a cannon that's shooting these particles out, if it's a cone, if it's emitted in a cone, that means that it's kind of swirling out and up, out and up. And that first image here is pretty accurate to what looking down at a cone emitter looks like. So you can use all sorts of technical terminology. So the Legal Beagle said particle effect on black background style raw, but then used their personalization code or used a personalization code to kind of lean those results even more. So very cool, very cool. But that's a very technical application of where now I love the dragon, by the way. That's of course that's coming through the reference here. But let's take one of these particles from Legal Beagle. Okay. We'll take this one here. Right. I'm going to just copy this. And then we will take a second image. Let's do one of like a more magical kind of character effect that's happening here. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through here for a moment. Let's see which result would be fun for this.
They're so pretty.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great ones. I'm loving all these. What is fun comments? I did not see this right away. That's great. Okay, let's just take this. I was really looking for one with more of a dark background, but I'll take the image of Rio here, and we'll combine these two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this image of Rio, go over to my tablet here, tablet, make a new canvas. This may not look good. I'm just kind of riffing here, but if I now take the particle emitter that we had selected and then I lost because I copied it. Hold on a second. Let's grab let's actually grab one of the dragons. I think that'll be pretty fun. Let's do let's do one that's a little more flat. This is the particle effect I selected, but I want to do, now that I'm seeing all these dragons, kind of want to do one with that. So let's do this second one here. I know it's not too accurate of a dragon, but I think it matches the effect the most. So now I'll grab this, I'll copy it, and then I'm going to paste this over this. And it has a background, it has a floor to it, so it's not the most not the best example of this. But what I can do is I can generally put it in the right place for what I want to do, which is basically have it come out of the sword here. And I'm going to run this as a blending mode. So we're going to kind of cycle through here. And this one's pretty decent. And we can essentially start to apply two prompts on top of each other to make a more dynamic effect on it. So let me actually mute this for now. And I'll grab that other one that I had, this one here, paste that in, and we can run through the blending modes and see which one kind of solves our like what does something pretty cool. So like I love working with darker color and lighter color because it peers through the image, right? So we can like basically have a reveal through through the light or dark space in the image. But if I just kind of cycle through this a little more, something like this, okay, then I can just rotate this into the position that I want loosely, something like this. And then let's go for something like that. Kind of put this into here. And then I'll put a mask on it and take my brush, drop my hardness, increase the size to be really, really big. And because I have it as a mask, that means that I just need to select it as black. And then whatever I draw will actually remove from the image. So I can just kind of loosely get rid of any sort of darkness or anything that's here. So like that, something like this. I'll shrink it down a little bit so that I can kind of get into the feathers here and remove that as well. Okay. And then we can actually come in and, I mean, there's all sorts of fun stuff you can do with Photoshop when it comes to like a generative expand and all the new AI tools that are in Photoshop. But what I tend to do at this point is I will go into hue and saturation and start to just cycle through different hues until it kind of works with the background. So like this one is pretty decent because it gives a little bit of a highlight on the top. It's also more red on the bottom here. And then I'll hit OK onto that. And just so we could show you guys what Photoshop's going to do with this, we could actually come up to here and switch this to generative expand now. And essentially, whatever I expand into from here, it's going to try to fill that image with something, as opposed to transparent, which is the default. The legacy version of crop will do. Will essentially just make it a bigger canvas. But look at this. We are immediately able to see 3 different alternatives for that expanded canvas. So let's go for something like this, right? But it included the effect that I made into the sword and then extended that effect to to finish it off there. So now we have a particle effect that, if I just mute the particle effect, you can see it actually where it expanded and continued it. It'll all kind of be baked into this now. So there is some element of permanence that happens when you do this, but oh man, just being able to quickly expand scenes like this is huge, huge. So yeah, I love using blending modes because it means that I can quickly grab assets from Midjourney and be able to use them in my in my results. So I hope that was beneficial. I know it was a little bit scatterbrained there with me jumping through a couple different images, but let's see what you guys are talking about here. Always great to follow along. This is from Reveille. Always great to follow along. Have to drop. Thank you, Victor and Kinky. Looking forward to watching the full stream when it's posted to YouTube. Yes, and I will be posting these onto YouTube very soon. I actually got 4 videos now that I have to upload, so you might get a couple of videos in your feed soon. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really do appreciate that. You can find me on YouTube with either by searching Victor Gnarly or there's links sometimes posted here in the side of VC Text too that you can quickly find that.
Bye, Beverly.
Thank you so much for joining. Let's see here. Let's see who is okay. I'm gonna go jump to whoever I troll for you is talking to here. When can we expect the video on demands? Not always able to join the whole session, but I enjoy the streams. Would love to rewatch these. Yes, of course, of course. My YouTube. I do kind of. I take forever to upload stuff because I scrub through the videos. I want to make sure that there's no misinformation in there, and there's a lot of potential for us to end up at dead ends, and I want to cut out those dead ends. But I also want to show you guys the mistakes that I make. There's also a couple times that we've had you guys prompt images that I'm like, nope, that's not going up on YouTube. So like I do scrub through them, and that's why it takes me a little extra time to get them online. But I just really appreciate you guys coming in and checking it out. Let's see here. There's a guy I came across named Shark who's been showing me how to do car creations because I'm a car nut and always wanted to draw oversized cars, but I can't draw for the life of me. You can use inanimate objects as a character reference. So we've done this with like the with the Phantasma city itself to make it like a floating city, right? Essentially using the city as a character reference. But if I just grab a car, so let's do Camaro. I don't know why I picked Camaro first, but we're just gonna go with that. Let's go with a red 2024 Camaro. Okay. And I'm going to grab this, and then I'm just going to say high speed chase, and then cref, and then paste the link for the Camaro, and then submit. And now it's treating the car as a character. Okay. So look at this. So it's a convertible in the reference image, and it definitely doesn't really understand the make or the model of the car on its own, but it does exactly what we want it to do. As long as you use it as a character reference. So now let's try this. Let's say transformer, and let's see if we can get this red car to turn into an actual like character, right? And it looks like it's gonna work. At least a little bit. So we have now a transformer that's inspired by the character reference. Okay. Look at that. It even grabbed the Chevy logo on the front of it. That's amazing. That is amazing result. My God. Like that is, yeah, that's super cool. So now I can take this Chevy branded transformer, and I'm just going to let's do cref. And again, I'm doing this outside of Niji specifically because we're doing transformer realism kind of stuff. Okay, so now I have this red Camaro transformer character as my character reference. I'm just gonna say action film on the moon. Sure, why not? And I'm gonna do AR32. Action film on the moon. And you could see that the influence of the prompt is now turning it into more like a spaceman, right? But it completely got rid of the Chevy logo. But in terms of being able to just say, hey, like this is just super cool to be able to do this so quickly. But the one thing about this is the fact that there is no moon. Thank you, Gallifrey. The one thing about this is the fact that depending on what the character is, you may find the consistency. The farther away you get from a humanoid person or whatever, the less likely the consistency remains like usable. Like it's you could see out of all of these, none of them evoke a transformer outside of it being slightly like a robot dude, right? But if I now describe it as a Chevy Transformer, right? Let's do an action film shot on the moon or set on the moon featuring a red, or we don't need to write red because in the character reference. So featuring a Chevy Transformer. And if we really, really wanted to say, hey, I want this to look like Transformers, right? Let's do Decepticon. Just something from the property. I avoid proper names like a plague. Like I really don't like prompting for things like Spider-Man or whatever. It too often will give me a result that is just not really that fun. Like for me, because I'm not seeing original characters. I'm seeing some corporate property that I don't own. But yeah, it like we got the shot on the moon, but it's not at all doing what I wanted it to do in terms of recreating a Transformer bot character. So the Decepticon part of it, this is a dead end. This won't work for us. So we'll go ahead and move on from this. But I love the Model T Transformer from Legal Beagle. He got that off of the request that's here from Hellscare Taker. But yes, I troll for you. Thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate you coming by, and we'll see you tomorrow. Let's see. Have a good night. I troll you, the S tier student. Yes, certainly the S tier student. There's a couple of them. You guys are growing. And it's really really cool to see this like new kind of improvement, this new kind of development that you guys are doing. So, okay. Well, I mean, I'll be honest, guys. I'm coming off the tail end of a vacation here, and that was about it from what I was planning on doing for the stream here. So, like, I'm curious to hear from you guys if you have any questions or anything in terms of like what sort of projects you guys are getting into. I really want to hear about it. You can message here on VC Text for the next couple of minutes or so, probably for a little while. I usually stream to about 7 my time, so that's about a half hour from now. But we do have an after party on our Discord server. So if you guys want to actually get on stage and talk to us, you can join Rhapsody and I for the after party. And we basically just collaborate with you, for a short amount of time. We'll figure out what sort of stuff you guys want to do, and we'll work with each other on that. Would love to see you guys join. Legal Beagle says, I'm curious of your take on my new SREF, the good and the bad. Okay. I'll have to check it out here in a minute. I'll definitely do that as a way to close off the stream. I think that's a good thing to do. I'm seeing from Really Smart here, prompting with Gnome. Gnome driving an old style car. I love how she's in the pose for driving the old style car, but it's like a wagon. Like it's almost like a tiny little mini wagon, right? So what I'm gonna do is, in order to encourage her in a car, we'll drop the character weight to 0. Okay. And she should be more in a Model T after doing that. Let's take a look at Legal Beagle's style reference while he's at it. Let's take a look at that. Actually, Legal Beagle, do you mind linking that? I just want to get the official one from you. I want to make sure that that's accurate. Look at this. By dropping the character weight to 0, not only did we get her driving, and it's very common for Gnome to generate a mustache because it sees a kind of an elf-like character and it goes like, oh, there's a dwarf, there's a whatever. Like we gotta put a mustache on that. But there's some really funny results coming off of that. I love the Model T. Mario Karted. Oh my god, yes, it is Mario Kart. It would be fun to eventually play Mario Kart with all that. Okay, so legal comic. Okay. Legal comic. Got it. Thank you. All right. So let's analyze a style reference really quick and get an idea of if there's any sort of clashing ideas, clashing visual aesthetics. They will tend to muck up your results more than anything. Legal, you did a really great job keeping the shadow consistency. It really, the only thing that I'm kind of worried about with this one is the fact that the indoor one, like the top part of this style reference, is all gradients, right? It's all this like subtle gradient of going from dark to light from one end of the room to the other. And but the rest of it, though, the lighting angle, like all that, all the shading is pretty appropriate. I look a lot at shading when it comes to the style references, but the when it comes to the results that this will make, what I expect to happen is it's a lot of color pop because you have all these flags here. There's going to be a certain amount of color pop that happens where you have a lot of browns and blues, but then the colors are going to basically exacerbate from there. So, like, if I say, all right, give me a let's just say CRF or yeah, CRF Victor CW0 and then add that as a style reference, I'm expecting a little bit of raver aesthetic. Oh, oops, I forgot to include an actual prompt. Hold on. So if I copy all this again, yeah, that's here. Okay, and then I will say it's just him. I oftentimes just use a pronoun, right? If I just use a pronoun, then I essentially get like a blank prompt. You can also use like quotes. So like if I went into here and was like, okay, I want this, but then I just put two quotes like that. They've been calling this a void prompt. I don't really know what it does exactly, but essentially it just removes any of the yeah. Do you have a I'll ask Ancient might know what happens when I do this, when I write the quotes as the only thing in the prompt, empty quote.
It's complicated, and I'm not sure how much I can exactly say.
Mhm.
But essentially, it's reading it as you wanting text that is nothing.
Okay, I see, interesting.
A fun prompt that I use using that to show off the style. It basically shows off the style, as far as I can tell. What I do is I have a prompt that's just address that looks like, and then two quotes, and it'll usually give me address with a like a print of the style, the way it is.
I see.
But like Ancient said, it's obviously very complicated, but like it's a just an example of how you can use it.
For sure. So I wanted to basically highlight Legal Beagle's thing here because he asked the question, but I also want to show you the effect that it's giving here. Um, you could see the gradient effect of where it's going from light to dark is being now recreated within the color palette that you have for your style reference. So if I try to double back here a little bit, yeah, here it is. If we see here that there is a gradient from light to dark that's being represented here, that gradient is going to be recreated in this as well. So sometimes that gradient is really, really cool. It creates this really unique effect where the depth is more accurately represented, especially if you have like a cave or a tunnel. You're going to see that gradient changing color as it goes down the tunnel. But the negative with that is that when you actually start to assemble these comics and you start to put them together, you start to realize that those gradients heavily clash with the hard line of the shading that often that's in the rest of the style reference. So it may apply that gradient to the shading, it may apply that gradient to the background, it may apply it even to this character's skin tone. But generally speaking, let's see what happens if I now copy this. I'm going to quickly hop myself over to Photoshop, just really, really quick. New. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take off the top of this style reference. Okay. I know that you have that in there because you want to do more interior shots, right? And it makes sense to have like single points of light when you are talking about interior shots. Yes, I get that. But the thing about this, I'm going to re-roll this really quick, but this time with a new link for the style reference. Oops, I forgot. I haven't posted that yet. Let me paste the link. You could even see how effective the gradients are. It's very One Piece, right? Like this is what one Rainbow Pirate. Yeah, yeah. So like you could see that the effect is applying to the sky everywhere, but the water is always a different color. The highlights are all over the place when it comes to how bright certain things are. When in the bottom right, it's not bright at all. Like there's a single shading line. Sorry, a single shading color. While here, it's like there's gradients all over the place. So now that I have this one that has a lot less gradients, I'll copy the link for that. This one here. I'll re-roll my result that had the style reference, the older one. So let's do this one here. Submit this. What I expect to happen now is we're going to see less of this sort of gradient in the background that's causing all of the colors to shift from one hue to another, or at least thematically shift. And we should see less of that. And look at the top right. Almost just a little bit in the shadow. Almost none of it on the left here. These are all choices that you have to make, but the reason why I recommend, I totally forgot to switch screens. My bad. Here. So this is the result that we got by removing the heavily gradient top of the style reference. We now have much harder colors. There's still a little bit of gradient. There's always going to be a little bit, especially with generated imagery. But we get a lot harder lines, a lot harder shadows, which in my opinion gives a more consistent result. So we can reuse you basically stretch them across an entire comic. If the rules for the world or the light especially changes prompt to prompt to prompt, it's a lot less useful for me because it means I have to do a lot more work to fix the images. If the results are largely flat like this, like look at the sweater has a little bit of a gradient, the shirt has a little bit of a gradient, but they're much more subtle. It's more along the lines of trying to get to the edge of the frame rather than dominating with the gradient all the way through. Yeah, I keep using the word gradient. Sorry, I'm a dead horse about that right now. But my recommendation is to probably remove the interior just to give yourself a little more consistency. That's my review. So I hope that was helpful. Let's see here. Neminin said, using a single symbol for your prompt is essentially just telling it to use a ghost prompt. Not really. So like if I use an emoji really quick, right? So like I'll do like I have Fran screaming here. So I have Fran, and it's a little emoji that just jiggles around, right? And then I just say Niji 6 just to give us something, right? What's gonna happen here is yeah, go ahead.
You should use one of the Windows accepted ones because the emoji prompting is a thing that actually works differently with Windows
with Windows
Windows emojis.
Got it.
So if you hit the Windows button and
as the Discord code that they're sent through as.
What?
Discord emoji actually get processed as the code they get sent through as, which is like bracket name of emoji and a bunch of numbers bracket.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was highlighting. But if I just use a regular emoji like from Windows, so if I just scroll all the way down, I guess, right? I have a lot.
Or you could actually hit the Windows key and like a semicolon, and it'll bring up all the Windows emojis.
Semicolon, really? Oh, look at that! Neat. So let's just do the eyeballs here, and then Niji 6.
This is stuff I learned from Bob's Blaze, by the way. He's like the emoji prompting master.
Got it. So, yeah, I mean, we got some close-ups of eyes. You know what I mean? But, yeah, I know it mostly for the Discord emojis. They're just going to read it like how Ancient was saying, you know? But yeah, overall, though, you could use a lot of stuff for your prompts that I think most people don't really know that you could, especially when it comes to images, you know? There's a lot of utility there that especially for working artists, they just don't realize because they keep seeing folks just prompting with words, and that's just all over the internet. There's so much low effort stuff that's on the internet now that they just assume everything has to be low effort, generated in 2 minutes, generated in a minute, when none of my comics are made quickly. Like I take way too long to make my comics because I'm a stickler for details. Um, which, by the way, I am going to make a little announcement. I will have a next Sage comic out early next week. It'll be the end of the It'll be not the end, but it'll be the end of this chapter with Destiny and Sage. So Sage's mother and all that stuff. We'll put a little cap to that for now. So stay tuned for more Sage comics. But the next stream, I'll be focusing on at least a little bit. I'll be focusing on 3D, particularly when it comes to using 3D models as your character reference, style reference, and image prompting, but also how to use AI generative fill like from Photoshop and other programs to the full extent to do stuff that frankly I would have loved to have had access to when I was working in Hollywood. Like uh, we'll get into all that next week. So if you're interested in anything 3D related, we're going to be stepping away from anime on the next stream and focusing on 3D. So everything from Pixar style animation to just rendering 3D models together. So I'll be opening up a new program for you guys that I've used plenty, but I think it'll be new for 98% of the people here, which is Adobe Dimension. It'll let us take 3D models and then we'll put them into Midjourney to make some really unique results with that, because we'll be able to pose them in 3D and then use that pose as a yes, we could use any program. You can use Blender, you can use whatever 3D program you want. But since I have the Adobe suite, I'll be using the Adobe suite for that. And essentially, we're going to grab some 3D models from websites like Thingiverse, and we are going to and make our gen filled or our generated derivatives of that. So yes, so if you do have access to a 3D scanner at your like local library, or maybe you're a nut like me and you owned one for a while, then you can bring in your 3D scans, and we will mess with those as well. So I have a lot of experience working with 3D printing. So like we will be able to do some pretty fun stuff. Yeah, there's also apps. There's apps on your phone that we can use with LiDAR scanning and all that. Feel free to use that too. But any sort of 3D model we'll be able to mess with next week. So that's my homework for you guys. Why are there suddenly a bunch of people in here? Hi, how you doing?
Because I just set the daily theme.
Oh, he said the daily theme. Hi everybody. It's good to see y'all. If you're just catching this now, thank you so much for joining. My name is Victor Gnarly. I run the character streams here. Next week we'll be focused on 3D. This week we focused on the new Gnome code. So Gnome code being a little nickname that we've given a new basically I mean, Legal Beagle went all the way and called it Niji 5, 6.5, and I was like, okay, that's a little much, but it's exciting to see how many people are stoked to be able to start working with Linclair or sorry, a clean line art. And so just to show you guys that for all the new people who just rushed in here, hi, I'm going to quickly prompt that for you. So you could do any fantasy character you want. If you got a fantasy theme or D&D character, let's see it. Go inside of VC Create and prompt it. But I'm going to do, let's do a necromancer. And then I have it saved as gnomed in my account. And then we're going to submit that. But you're going to see a bunch of people using this style reference that's here. And I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see that a little better. So you'll see that you'll see that it says style reference. There's a bunch of links and then a little code at the end here. What that's going to do is it's going to create a clean line art version of whatever you write into the prompt. So you can use character reference or you don't. It doesn't really matter for the sake of just making a character. But this is an amazing way to quickly generate a fantasy character for your D&D games or anything like that. Because you can just take, say, this cool undead skull guy. We'll take the link for that. Now that we have him in the clean line art style where the shading is super minimal, right? We can do two things with it. We could either create it as a style, as a character reference. So we'll just say animated fantasy film. just to give us something to prompt here, cref, and then paste the new guy in there, and then AG6. And we can see what that result looks like with this new character in the clean art style. The other option is actually to copy this, preferably upscale it first, but for the sake of a demo, while this is loading, I'll show you guys what this looks like. But we can actually direct it also with our own shading and our own color now, because the new Gnome code creates what is called clean line or Linclair, which I'm not pronouncing correctly, by the way. It has a French pronunciation, and I don't speak French, so. But basically, what we can do is, while you guys are generating all these cool new fantasy characters, right? I'll show you this really quick inside of Photoshop. You can use any program you want to do this, any sort of image manipulator that you want. But we are going to submit this. As long as it has blending modes, you'll be able to do this. So GIMP or anything like that. MS Paint, I don't think has blending modes. I'm sorry. That I don't think that's going to work. But we can come into here and pick a pretty arbitrary color, just something that's not black, just so that there's a little bit of interesting depth to it. Let's go for let's go for something that's like this here. Okay. Let's go for more purple. Right. So now I have it as a new layer. I'm gonna just make a couple. We basically have to decide the direction of the light, right? So if he's holding a flame here, that means that there's most likely going to be a highlight and a flame, like from onto the bones here. So let's go ahead and just color in some shading very, very loosely. We do not need to be that accurate right now, because the only thing we're doing is essentially establishing where the color is going to change. So we'll come into here like that. Drag a couple more here, maybe a little less there. Let's go for something like that. Okay, and we can now let's actually add a little bit to the underside of the chin as well, something like that. Okay, now I could cycle through blending modes until I find one that makes sense. So let's go for something like this, overlay. And then I can even now grab one of the lighter colors from the flame. And since it's on an overlay layer, I can do the same thing, but now with just the highlight, okay? And what this is gonna let us do is be able to control our imagery like real artists. We're doing it correctly. We're allowing for this to be a flat template so that we can easily add colors to this, right? So if I ever need to make changes or edit this at all, the only thing I need to do is go back to normal, grab the color that I want to change or that I want to add or whatever, and just start highlighting. Okay. Now I wasn't very accurate with this. I went very, very quickly, but if I zoom in, because it's an overlay, that means that I don't need to worry about the black line art at all. I could just keep coloring. I could just keep drawing it in and it'll be fine. But now that I have this, okay, it's very, very subtle, right? It may look like it didn't do much to the overall image, but what happens now is with this new shaded version, if I come back into Midjourney, this is something I discovered when working on the fantasy series, okay? As long as I have a now updated version of this with more dynamic lighting, okay, the lighting will be saved inside of the character reference. So essentially saying, now let's bring this, let's say animated film, fantasy film again, Niji 6 cref, and then paste this. And I'll do an AR3 too, so we get a nice wide shot out of that. What we're going to see here is a lot more influence on the environment and the color tones of everything. So I'm expecting a lot more flames, a lot more. Yeah. Here. This one's a perfect example of why I love this clean line art style. Look at this. We were able to say, hey, I want the flame to affect the character art. I want the colors to be there. I want there to be a depth to it that it was not represented in the original character art. Now it's possible. Now it's there. All because we were able to make some very quick, very subtle changes that Midjourney understands. Midjourney gets it, and it's just incredible to go from the simple Linclair version of it. Oh my god, look at all these little nymph elf. Oh, that's cute. I love the Rio, the moth Rio. She really wants a lamp. That's what I'm seeing here is just lamp good. I want lamp. But yes. So I hope you guys get excited about this because I'm super excited about it. I hope you guys can start to, buy drawing tablets and like exploring how to combine generated imagery and actually learn how to draw better. All because we're able to just get a jump start in the imagery because we have a blank canvas to work on. Sorry, that we're not working just with a blank canvas. We're working on something that is like a generated foundation to our art. So yeah, I love it. I hope you guys love it too. This was a very fun stream. We did a lot of really, for being a warm-up stream, we got a lot of things done. We got so many original characters, so many cool things that you guys have been exploring with the new style references, and the especially the Gnome 3 style reference. So please join the Discord for my comics. It was called Movie Machine. I have changed the name to Gnarly Comics just because we mostly focus on storytelling with comics. But we are venturing more and more into video. There's plenty of really cool videos that you guys are making, and I will eventually incorporate them into my comics too. But you can find my Discord server. It'll be linked here in VC text here in a moment. But the main thing is that as soon as you join, we'll have a stage available for you guys to hop in and ask directly any questions, especially if you have any projects you're working on. I want to hear about it. I want to see what you guys are doing. So please join, and we'll be able to dig into specifics. Otherwise, that's basically it for me, guys. I thank you so much for joining. I'll leave it to Kinky to give any kind of like closing messages and stuff. But next week, 3D. So time
3D.
Time to explore some 3D.
Can't wait. Nope. The Victor Gnarly Movie Machine server is now back up on the screen. Please go ahead and join and go hang out with them after the show. I might even swing by. We have prompt battles all weekend. Please come visit us. Even if you do, you'll have a good time. I promise. That's pretty much all I had to say. I'm sorry it takes me so long to get the Victor Gnarly.
Oh, you're good.
Server link up. It's just because I have to go over and get it and then copy and paste it because the link doesn't work anymore after the first time you use it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. But I hope you guys have a great day and a great weekend. And if I don't see you at Prompt Battles, I'll hope to see you here next Friday.
Thank you so much, Kiki. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for Ancient for hosting us as well. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Waves all around.